9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Muncie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
A Victory Monday and a very good afternoon to you as we welcome you into the Sports Bar, Rochester's only local sports talk show. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, and our video stream up for you to watch the Sports Bar on YouTube and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Gino?
Did you say Victory Monday?
I did.
Right off the top. I mean, we could make this all 3 hours of this music today. Victory Monday means one thing here in the Sports Bar.
It's time for a little Bruno Martino. We kick our feet up. We celebrate with class.
Sei mai stata così bella, adorabile, così.
Feels pretty good.
Noi siamo tanto innamorati.
I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, these guys are crazy. It's a Victory Monday. Why would they be playing the music of Bruno Martino? We'd be playing the music of course we're playing the music of Bruno Martino, because he's Italian!
It's actually scientifically proven, Danger, that if you play this, women are more likely just to disrobe.
Okay. Sorry to any females listening to the Sports Bar right now. We didn't mean to make you pregnant with the sounds of Bruno Martino. That's a Victory Monday, everybody. It's a Victory Monday.
Not only can you hit the post in English, you can do it in multiple languages. It's impressive, dude.
I have one skill. One skill and one skill alone in my life. You can ask me to do home improvement projects and I'll kick and scream and maybe they'll get done. But if you want me to do something throw a song intro in my face and watch me talk up that ramp and hit the post almost every time. We've got a great show lined up for you today. And spirits are high as the Bills get another win over the Miami Dolphins with that late 61-yard Tyler Bass field goal. We'll talk about it, and we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills with the New York State Broadcasting Hall of Famer Mike Catalana from 13 WEM Sports Buffalo Plus.
Saw him out of the stadium yesterday, Danger, and he just tell me what that was. What was it like to be in the Rainbow Room with other greats there? And he told me Boomer Esiason was there.
Nice.
Carton went in.
Okay.
Yeah, but Carton gave his. Well, I'll let Mike tell the story, but yeah, they told everybody 5 minutes. And nobody went 5 minutes.
No?
No, that doesn't.
Shocking.
No.
You give somebody, a broadcaster, a hard time and they can't meet it? That never happens.
No. But we'll get Mike's thoughts on the Bills at 7-2. Here are the Buffalo Bills. Mike Catalana, Buffalo Plus, 13 WHAM, coming up at the bottom of the hour.
And we'll talk next hour, just NFL in general. Ryan Hickey, Hot Take Hickey, Infinity Sports Network, JR Sport Brief. He'll be stopping by right around 4:25.
Well, you know who his team is.
He's a Colts fan.
Yeah, so, we're already looking ahead here. Mm-hmm. Now, the Colts, to me, have that, this is Seattle. We don't know this team. I feel a little uneasy about a team we don't know. Who's that quarterback? Well. We'll talk to Ryan here as if you watched that last night, if you were able to stay with it wasn't exactly like Joe Flacco was playing the way he was last year, much less the way he was playing with the Baltimore Ravens last decade. We'll talk to Ryan Hickey. Oh, by the way, he's also apologies to everyone who's a Penn State fan, but that's his alma mater too.
Bad vibes are on Penn State this weekend. Just bad vibes in general. You lose the game. You have Jason Kelsey throwing down phones. I have thoughts on that. James Franklin getting into it with the student body. Did you see that there's video of that where some students were heckling him, and he was like, challenging them. What's your name? What's your name? Oh boy. Just real bad vibes in Happy Valley after they lose again to Ohio State. So we'll get Hickey on with us here in the 4 o'clock hour, and we'll talk all about it. We have time for your calls this afternoon at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool and share your thoughts from yesterday's win.
Let's just start with the obvious right off the top. Bills fans, I'm sorry, you're all are fickle. Actually, it's not just Bills fans. It's any fan base. You know how many people were texting me, and I'm reading this. Tyler Bass's ass. Cut Tyler Bass. Can they cut Tyler Bass now? Oh, we love you. We love you. Love.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best, isn't it? I mean, this is what makes being a fan fantastic. Is there's no revisionist history. You just say what you want to say. You get it off your chest. Is Tyler Bass back? And he shanks an extra. Oh, cut his ass. And then he hits the goalpost. He shouldn't be able to leave the stadium. And then he walks off with a 61-yarder. Yeah, you kind of change your tune a little bit on the Bills kicker. I'll say this. This has to be the peak of Tyler Bass's confidence as a Buffalo Bill. Would you agree with that? That there at no other time in his NFL career should he have more confidence than he does right now. Recognize the way he was in the locker room post-game by Sean McDermott, by his teammates, getting the love that he received, all of the emotion that came with that, knowing he's been through the ups and the downs of the last season plus.
Can I finish your thought?
Go ahead.
It's not a confidence issue. Like, honestly, it really isn't.
Well, you can't say it's a confidence. Like, if we were worried that it was a confidence issue, you can eliminate that excuse. Because in the preseason, we thought it was a confidence issue, right? You had Sean McDermott going out of his way to talk about how great he felt about Tyler, like just to pump the tires of Tyler Bass, just to build that confidence. And if he doesn't have confidence after yesterday, then then his issues are beyond his confidence. It's something mechanical. It's something physical. And it's something mental that goes beyond just his confidence as the kicker for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I think that the hidden points in this game, Danger, and I thought, boy, he actually looked it. 10-3 was the score. Bills are driving. Drive stalls out. What was that, a 49? I'd have to look it up, but it wasn't exactly a gimme.
Right.
But getting that field goal right at the end of the first half where, okay, the Bills were 3 times in the red zone, came away with only 6 points, but at least you had Bass making it a 10-6 game and thinking, all right, this is not going to be as bad as I thought it was going to be. They get some points here. And then you have a missed extra point, and you also have the hit upright, and that leads you to then the, and I think Catalana at that point said, can we just go for 2 on everyone? Like, we're the high school team that doesn't have a place kicker.
Right.
And then 61 yards, go figure. At 61-yarder, here was I thinking. I was thinking at that time, oh, my gosh, this is how they lose the game. Not in overtime, Danger, but the fact that you're going to, because where the ball would be spotted, you're going to either allow, all right, does Sanders try a moonshot, or is there a Hail Mary? And I'd be like, this will be the way the Tyler Bass era ends in Buffalo after he misses this kick that is clearly out of his range. No, it wasn't out of his range.
Yeah, well, if you could argue that kick saved his job, saved his career. I would listen to that. I thought that the Dolphins were kind of playing to tie all along. I never got the sense that they had the killer instinct in them, that they were satisfied with this game potentially going into overtime and having it decided on a coin toss, because no defense was really stepping up to stop the other team's offense in that second half.
Both teams were playing the same strategy, I think, defensively. Like, okay, you want to dink and dunk on us, go ahead. It was almost like the Bills were afraid of Hill getting behind the defense or Waddle. And they made plays, don't get me wrong. But
Hill got behind a couple of times.
Yeah, but I'm not talking out the door behind. Now, that's a different story. No, the Bills were leaky. Don't make any mistake about it. But when you leave that time up on the clock, okay, this should be the Bills. Wait a second, Miami gets a stop, flag. It's not pass. Oh, it's not pass interference. It's Jordan Poyer. We should all write on X to Jordan Poyer. Thank you for.
Just be careful if you do that because his wife will come after you.
She did. She's very vocal about that sort of stuff. Here's what happens when your skills deteriorate as a defensive back. You commit more penalties.
Well, I'll defend him a little bit because he was always a physical player. I wouldn't say he's a dirty player, but he was always a physical player. He always wanted to get that shot in. And I think he was going for that shot. He just happened to get that shot up around Coleman's head, and you can't go helmet to helmet, obviously. I'm just curious if anybody was at the game. And, Gino, you were there. I don't know if you saw it or not, but did they do some sort of tribute video because you could go ahead and add that to the end of the Jordan Poyer tribute video. You could take the bad angle against James Cook in week 2 and add that to the tribute video. And now you can add this helmet to helmet. Thank you, Jordan Poyer. Thank you for all you've done for the Buffalo Bills organization.
Can somebody let us know because I didn't see it, but I've got some other things going on game day where, sometimes if there's a commercial break, I'm not paying attention.
Right.
So.
You have the video that, shows all the great things he did as a Buffalo Bill during his time with Sean McDermott and with Micah Hyde. And then you tack on a couple of nice little highlights there from the Dolphins. The bad angle that he took on a long James Cook touchdown run in week 2, and now the helmet-to-helmet on Keon Coleman. Thank you, Jordan Poyer. Thank you for your service to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that was, to me, it's the equivalent danger of leaving your skates in hockey. The way, it's not quite targeting, but it's a clear call. It's nothing you could argue that keeps the Bills' drive alive. But this was a game, I don't know, can I take some credit here? Oh, it's going to be a blowout, everybody. No, I said it was going to be a 3-point win for Buffalo. What was it, a 3-point win? Nobody cares when you're right, Gene. No, I was right. You come to the sports bar and you get enlightened by Danger and Battaglia. I'm sorry.
The difference between you and I is when I'm right, I don't do a victory lap about it because you're going to be wrong a lot more times than you're going to be right. And people are only going to remember the times that you were wrong. So I just, if we're right, yeah, we'll say it, but I'm not doing a victory lap. Because nobody cares when you're right. But you got it right, Gino. Congratulations. And Vegas knew. And by the way, Vegas knew so much that yesterday favorites were 13-1 straight up in the NFL. I could make the argument, and we'll talk more about this later, I can make the argument that the Bills' outcome was actually the most unexpected of the games yesterday. That out of all of the games yesterday, Miami keeping it as close as they did and the Bills only winning by 3 was the most unexpected of all outcomes from yesterday's action.
This might be the worst bad beat of the season. This is going to be tough. Did you know this from yesterday's game, Danger? Did you see this? Tua, right, exactly. So Tua, his over-under player prop passing yards, 243. Okay, kick is made. It's up. It's good. Okay, well, Tua's at 254. He can add to it maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
No, that counted as negative passing yards.
Yep.
So even though he had it by 10 yards, the fact that Rousseau makes the tackle at the end on the Benny Hill play, as I call it, yeah, sorry to anybody who bet Tua on the over because that play lost 23 yards.
Yeah, that doesn't make Vegas bettors very happy. That does not make people hate that. I hate that so much.
Or imagine you had 2 on the under, like that's found money.
Man, I hate that so much. Lots to unpack from yesterday's win, both good and bad for the Buffalo Bills. It was not perfect, and they went into the game, like most teams this time of season, injured. A couple of injuries of note, mainly. You didn't have Amari Cooper, and you didn't have Christian Benford, so Kaiir Elam gets a chance to kind of make the most out of an opportunity yesterday.
Yeah, I went to McDermott's presser after, and he was asked about that. Like, what about Cooper? What about Benford? And he's like, he's hemming and hawing, 50-50. Okay, translation, all right? They'll never say this, but if it were a playoff game, you probably would have saw one or maybe both of those guys out there. It's the Dolphins. Give them a little bit of extra rest. Make sure they get healthy. Kyer Elam was okay. Can we agree on that? For being a backup, and we tag him and we have these expectations that he's a first rounder, but he recovers a fumble. Sure, he allowed a few catches, but I thought the Dolphins didn't pick on him as I thought they would.
I thought he did a good job getting after it. I'll just put it that way. If it looked like he was getting after it. He didn't look entirely out of place. Now, the guy that I love, the play that I loved, and you know where I'm going with this.
I know.
Man. Oh, my God. Anytime I see this in the NFL, it warms my heart. Whenever the peanut punch is executed, the way Taron Johnson executed it at the start of the second half, it just warms my heart. And honestly, you needed that play to kind of even things up. The way this game was going, that Keon Coleman deflection for the interception in the first half was so, I mean, that could have been a devastating play. That could have meant the game.
Well, the fact that, okay, at least Miami takes over their own 3. No, they drive 97 yards.
Yes. So it could have meant the game, and it was a game where, there weren't a lot of opportunities with possessions. So for Johnson to get that punch out, for the Bills to recover, for Elam to recover that fumble, and then take it down later and scoring for their first lead of the game there in the second half, early in the second half. At that point, I'm like, they can't lose this game. There's no way they're losing this game. It was a little bit edge of your seat stuff because you didn't see the Bills really stop the Dolphins' run game. There was really no answer for Mostert and Achane, with the exception of that fumble. That Mostert fumble kind of evened the playing field.
No, they were running right up the gut. They were running to the outside. Again, that was the frustrating part yesterday. They're getting yards on first down, making it easier on second and third down. And this was a game, maybe right at the beginning of the McDermott era, that the Bills would lose. I think that's the takeaway from yesterday. Like, good teams find a way to win, and Taron Johnson is one of the best at his position. That peanut punch absolutely swung the game yesterday.
Now, the play that we haven't talked about yet, that actually, it might be the difference of what you're talking about, a team that can't win a game like yesterday versus the team that can win a game like yesterday, and we haven't talked about him yet. Josh Allen finding Quentin Morris in a play that looked like it was doomed, right? It looked bad, but we've seen him now do this so many times where you think he's done, where you think he's about to run out of bounds, or you think he's about to go down with a sack, and he finds Quentin Morris, who made himself available, played through the whistle. The improvisation leads to a touchdown and keeps you in the game. I mean, the game was tied at 20 at that point. You put the pressure back on Miami with that touchdown. The defense wasn't able to slow down the Dolphins offensively. But without that Morris touchdown, I'm wondering, okay, are you kicking another field goal there? What are we doing there?
Yeah.
You needed that touchdown, second and goal there with the game tied. And Morris, to his credit, a name we haven't mentioned a lot, finds himself open or remains available on that play where Josh Allen looks like he's about to get swallowed by the Dolphins defense. Another just remarkable play by the quarterback.
Yeah, I think also, as I hate to say this, as the weather's going to get bad here, and maybe the 49er game is the one, but are we really concerned about the Jets and Patriots? The point being the running game. Is there a better 1-2-3 in this league right now than James Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson? Ty Johnson could be a solid number 2 for some teams, but Ray Davis catching that ball and then just running past everybody. Ray Davis, truly a plug-and-play guy. That's the positive out of the running back position. Another drop from James Cook.
Yeah.
I don't know if that goes for 6, but it would probably go for at least a first down there.
Really, there's no excuse. I mean, it was such an easy – it looked like such an easy pitch and catch. I mean, the Coleman thing, I could say, all right, catch it with your hands, Rook. What are we doing? It just bounces off his shoulder. But to your point on Ray Davis and the Bills' running game as a whole, I mean, you had Davis with the play of the game, 63 yards, and nobody bringing him down. But on the ground, 94 yards on just 19 carries. So the Bills averaging on that afternoon just under 5 yards, around at 4.9 yards per carry. So you weren't able to stop Miami defensively or offensively with their run game. But conversely, the Dolphins had no answer for the Bills' run game either. And you're right. I think going in, the both game plans were defensively, don't give up the big play. Well, the Dolphins did give up a big play, and a lot of it was because of over pursuit and poor tackling. Ray Davis getting down the field and scoring that long touchdown, the lone long touchdown of the game.
Yeah, another thought I had on this game, we'll get to Mike Catalana. I am not going to cast a stone at the officiating. There are the 3 calls, and they were all costly against Buffalo, but again, the rap one, I'm not sure where they came up with the, other than the fact he was leading himself with the helmet. The 2 holding calls I'm not going to say because you, the viewer, are confined to whatever CBS or whatever network is carrying the game is showing. So the angle they're showing on both of those, where's the call? Okay. I'd like to think that the officials maybe know a little bit more on that. I didn't see this, watching the game, watching the reaction, didn't see any protest coming that was over the top from Buffalo. So anybody that wants to talk about the officiating, you're welcome to. And it certainly didn't help Buffalo in the first half. But again, I'm not until you see actually all the angles here. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I never want to talk about officiating. I just never want to talk about it. And I know that officiating on a call like the Poyer hit to Coleman, that's the kind of play that if you're a Dolphin fan, you're like, well, that swung the game. That was the reason why we lost. I'm like, could have been the reason why you lost, but you also, couldn't stop the Bills' run game, and you also let Quentin Morris get free.
Also, that's the correct call. He's leading with his helmet.
Correct. You didn't blow the call. And if it is a ticky-tack call or if it isn't a phantom hold, what is it? What constitutes holding? It's all subjective. I don't know. I mean, you could be upset at those calls in the moment, but if the Bills were to lose, if we were here today talking about officiating, I'd walk out the door. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to talk about officiating because any game you watch, there are going to be calls that are questionable or calls that are missed. It's in every game. In every game, there's no perfectly officiated game. You could be upset at Sean McDermott for challenging. I could be upset at that too. I mean, it's like, dummy, what are you doing?
Well, John Perry, what are you doing?
Yeah,
John Perry, as soon as that happened, he's not sliding, he's diving.
That's
you
right.
can't. He's actually not down. It was the correct call on the field.
That's right.
And you could say, what you use your challenges. Well, in a game like that, you actually might have needed the timeout. You did. It all worked out.
Yeah. Let's talk to Mike Catalana, who was also there at the game, and we'll get his thoughts on the Bills getting a win to move to 7-2 over Miami and sweeping the Miami season series. 13 Wham Sports Director, Buffalo Plus, and New York State Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer Mike Catalana joining us next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Sports Update.
Buffalo Bills at 7-2 past the midway point of the season. Head coach Sean McDermott to address reporters next hour. Keon Coleman, the one player to get hurt yesterday. Tyler Bass hitting from 61 for the win. Bass on the fan reaction.
And it feels, again, it's very emotional. To go out there and help my team win, man, it's emotional. And for the fans, too, to give them something to cheer about, man, it means a lot.
13 Wham and Buffalo Plus's Mike Catalana. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football with Mike coming up next year in the Sports Bar. New Orleans Saints have fired head coach Dennis Allen. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, he'll be out multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. Syracuse basketball plays their first regular season game tonight. The Orange hosting Lemoyne. The Amherst with the weekend sweep over Utica. Rochester playing in Cleveland on Wednesday. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Always excited to welcome in from 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus, and for the first time as a New York State Broadcasting Association Hall of Famer, the Rochester sports icon Mike Catalana stopping by the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Paint a picture for us, Mike. What was that ceremony like?
I will have to say it was pretty cool. Well, first and foremost, I had basically my family there with me. Mom and brothers in South Jersey. They came up. My daughters live in New York, so they were there with their husbands. I had people from work, Don, Doug, and their wives, and then Dan and Jenna came down, my news director, they were all there. And the setting was pretty cool. I mean, it's a rainbow room, a Rockefeller Center, 65th floor. They do it pretty well. So it was a cool event, and we caught great weather. So everything around the city was great. It was right about 70 degrees. So it was a really very nice couple of days there.
Did you get all emotional, Mike?
Yeah, there's moments, you guys know this, you do things. I've loved my job, and I don't like to talk about myself, which, you guys know, it's like we talk about the other stuff.
Right.
But in that setting, it was nice because I was able to talk about all the people through the years. I mean, I'm not retiring, but it feels more like it's a sort of a lifetime thing. And so to have them all there and to be able to say that sort of to them in that setting, it is emotional in that way because it's, you broadcast every day, you talk about sports, you do whatever, but it's the people around you, both at work and family and all, that have been sort of part of it in that way. So it was an emotional day, but a great day.
Mike, speaking of emotions, this is the most emotional I think we've seen Tyler Bass after he hits the 61-yard game-winning field goal, and it's a field goal that has at least saved his time with the Buffalo Bills for now. But we were talking about if Tyler Bass has any issues, it can't be confidence at this point. I mean, this has got to be the peak level of confidence that he's had in his pro career. So if we see Tyler Bass struggle later on this season or through the course of the rest of this season, there is still something mechanically wrong with what he's doing, correct?
Yeah, I think he's always been able to hit the ball. Honestly, I think it got in his head. That kick, obviously, we all know it's a team record. It's his longest one ever because he's been with the Bills. And you saw it. It would have been good from 70. It's funny to say this because it was a game-winning 61-yarder, but it was by far the best kick I've ever seen him hit. I mean, it was dead solid, perfect, down the middle, game winner from a guy who struggled with extra points. You know what I mean? And just didn't look right. Maybe he needed this. Maybe he needed the big punch, the big play to sort of get it out of his head. And, while everybody says we supported him, and they do, McDermott's saying, hey, we brought in competition for him. We brought somebody in. He knew where he was. And as much as his teammates are rooting for him, they also want him to make the kick, right? So that was the case. And for him to do this, honestly, it's pretty big for Bean. It's pretty big for McDermott because I don't think, unless he went to a big slump, I don't think he's going anywhere now after hitting a kick like that. He's still got to perform. But, they can maybe save the roster spots for somebody else if they can make a move by tomorrow.
And Mike, I think Mother Nature helped out here too, because you've covered games in that stadium for decades. That's not the end to kick toward. Normally the wind is blowing in your face. I didn't even know in the month of November anyone could hit from that long heading to the scoreboard end.
That's a great point, Gene. I talked to Reed Ferguson afterward, and Reed was talking about that. He said it was the rare thing. They knew the way the wind was going that day. They planned it to be going in that direction for the fourth quarter because normally it's the other way. And he said normally it's very difficult to hit from distance going to the scoreboard side. And he told us that Bass said he felt pretty good at about 58 yards going that way during warm-ups and everything. So even if you're Miami, you come here every year, you know the way it normally is. And it was going the other way. So while it was fortunate, they did plan for it. He said they knew it going in, that's where they wanted to be going for the fourth quarter. So they had that set. But I got to tell you, it's funny. You listen to the long snapper go into detail on wind directions at the stadium. It sounds kind of like, oh, please. But until you hear it, it's pretty interesting to know that this is what goes through their minds. And at the same time, while it was a pretty great day for November, there is always wind in Orchard Park. So it's always a factor no matter how nice the day is.
We're almost 24 hours away from the trade deadline, Mike, and you've got some injuries now again at wide receiver. I'm wondering if and the guys on the defensive line are getting a little bit nicked up as well. Everybody's hurt at this time of the season. But what do you think? Is there still a move to be made here for Brandon Beane before tomorrow at 4:00?
I think there is, and I think he's looking. I mean, like everybody's looking. It's funny when you start seeing, teams all saying they're still buyers, and some are going to be sellers. Look, I don't know. I think the biggest thing waiting on is Keon. I think Amari Cooper will be back soon. I don't know how close he was to playing this week, but I think he'll be back soon. And then you look, if Keon is okay, if it's not anything to keep him out a substantial amount of time, I don't think they're doing anything at wide receiver. I mean, obviously, if Keon had to be out, then that might change the plans. I think it's defensive line. You mentioned it. The name that's popped up, he was there yesterday, Calais Campbell, veteran guy, final year of his deal. I got to tell you, I was at the Super Bowl. It was the year in Miami when it was Kansas City and San Francisco, and I'm in the press room, and he's getting the Man of the Year award, the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And that is the largest human being I've ever stood next to in my life, Calais Campbell. He is 6'8 plus, 300 and some pounds. And this past week, I did a piece with a guy in Miami, asked him about Campbell. He's like, he's not just there for his wisdom. He's making plays. He has been a very effective player for them. So that type of player, you saw it yesterday. They didn't set the edge very well. I mean, Miami, that's partially on the defensive ends. I just didn't think the D-line was effective in that game. And, Smoot got banged up in the game. Like, Von Miller he made maybe a couple of plays a little bit in the run game late, but he really did not have an effective game. I think they can always use help there, whether it's DN, D tackle, somebody that can do both for them. And I think if he's buying and he's making a move and going to trade one of those picks, I think it's going to be for defensive help.
Mike Catalana, 13 win, Buffalo Plus, our guest here. Mike, the division's pretty much over, right? So we can look at seeding, and, hey, if the Bills win against the Chiefs in 2 weeks, well, that would be head-to-head. Really, they're only one game back, but they don't play the Chiefs this week. They play the Colts. I mean, Sean McDermott's such a good coach. I don't think we'd be talking about trap game, or should we be talking about a trap game?
No, I mean, I really don't think so. Look, they played the Chiefs. I know they're looking forward to it. But honestly, at this part of the season, it's almost got to be week to week with these guys. And yes, it's a home game with the Chiefs the next week and all. The Colts, I always think of the Colts as a pretty good team. And then offensively, they were just a mess last night. Now, the way Minnesota plays defense and the way the Bills play defense are pretty different. I mean, Minnesota just attacks on every play. It is Flacco. He did not look good. They did not look good last night. But, Flacco, we've seen it. Like when he gets going, he can still throw the football. So I don't think they're going there with one eye on Kansas City. And even in terms of the seedings, it's funny you guys mentioned the seedings because I'm looking at it and I just mentioned, I know how the Steelers are having a really good year. But in my mind, I'm still thinking about Baltimore. I mean, Lamar's having a great year. Baltimore's been so good. And you look and you go, wait a minute, Baltimore's the 5 seed. Yeah, that's right, because they're not winning their division at the moment. There's a long way to go for 1 seeds and all that. Kansas City does not play that many tough games the rest of the year. They get Tampa tonight. I heard the weather's supposed to be really bad out there. I don't know how that'll impact the game, but, Tampa's pretty banged up. But in terms of that, listen, the Bills I was thinking of this part. You got to stay in a spot. What you really want is to avoid, if you're looking ahead, avoid playing both of those teams, right? Avoid playing Baltimore and Kansas City if you could. You'd want them to play each other, depending on how it maps out. But, there's a lot of games left to be played. Isn't part of you hope the Chiefs come in here undefeated? I mean, there's part of me going, go ahead and win. Go ahead and win, and then they'll see them, right?
Yeah.
And, because, they're good. They're very good. They're the Chiefs. But we've seen the Bills beat them in the regular season before, right?
Yeah.
3 times, right? We know they can do that. Having a home game is great. They had the home game last year and still didn't beat them. So all those things are great. But to Gene's point in the beginning, this is kind of comical, but I think in 3 weeks before Thanksgiving or right about Thanksgiving, they potentially could clinch the division.
Well, we were talking about it last week that they could have, if everything played out perfectly, where the Jets lose, the Dolphins lose for the next 3 weeks, they could have clinched by week 11 if they go 3-0 and the rest of the division goes 0-3 week by week. Which would have made them, I think, the 5th team in history to clinch a playoff berth by week 11. I look at Baltimore, Mike, and tell me if you agree with this, and Pittsburgh specifically, those 2 teams, knowing that Pittsburgh still has the meaty part of their schedule, the divisional games in their schedule ahead, that division is just going to cannibalize each other and could actually end up being like the 4 or 5 seed when it's all said and done, because there's going to be a lot of losses between those 2 teams here down the stretch. And I'm with you. I think if Kansas City comes into Buffalo undefeated and the Bills somehow find a way to beat them and continue to roll and continue to win games, I guess my question is, we know what Baltimore did to the Bills earlier this season. You're the guy that always says it's not necessarily who you play, but when you play them. Is there a team on the AFC side here that makes you a little bit nervous if you're the Buffalo Bills? There's a lot of football left to go, as you mentioned, but when you look at Houston today, it doesn't look like the Houston of Week 5.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, I kind of think the Bills match up pretty well with Houston. Listen, Diggs, when you mention Diggs, everybody goes a certain way. But without not having Diggs on that field makes a big difference to that team. They're still good. Stroud's a good quarterback, all those things. They'll get Nico Collins back and all that. But Baltimore just plays that different game, right? They're physical. Lamar is Lamar. Has not been great in the playoffs. We know that. But I think they are a physical matchup. I think the way they play is tough. I do think if the Bills get them again, I think it would be a little bit different. But you also played them down there, night game, place was going crazy. Like, get them in Orchard Park, it might be a different thing. The Chiefs, we know what the Chiefs are, and they should be getting guys back too. So obviously they're going to be, whether they're the 1 seed, the 2 seed, wherever they end up being, they're going to be tough. But I would think it's, pretty safe to say. And it's funny, I was telling somebody about Pittsburgh, and I'm like, I think Pittsburgh, I don't know if Pittsburgh has enough to go on a run and win 3 playoff games, because I think you really need the quarterback play to do that. But in a single game with Pittsburgh, I think they could be tough for anybody, because they know who they are. That's who Pittsburgh is. They play that way. I just don't know if they have 3 wins in them in the playoffs, but they're tough. But I think Baltimore would be that team.
Mike, we're having fun week to week, just gauging Josh Allen in this MVP. I'm sure he's not going to talk about it, but is it just going to be as simple from here on out? Hey, who's the top seed in the conference? Who's the quarterback? What will it take to have Josh Allen win the MVP?
You know, his numbers are really good. The team is winning. If they're one of the, it's funny you say that because mostly everything I've heard, no, I think the betting thing is pretty close, but most people, when they mention it, say Lamar's the favorite, yet they're the 5 seed. So if you're the 5 seed, I even though that sounds funny, they may not end up there, but you feel like it's tough to win from the 5 seed, right? No matter how many games you win, you're not the 1 or the 2, like you mentioned, though he's having a really good year. I think, honestly, am I missing something? It's for those 2 to win or lose. And I don't, am I missing a guy who would be in the race? I know people sometimes throw other names in there, but I in the AFC, that's the case. I don't know who else is up there for right now at the moment. It would be, I think it's between those 2, isn't it?
Feels like it. Sure does.
Yeah.
Mike, I want to go back to the roster for a second here because yesterday we had the chance to see somebody we haven't seen this season so far. That was Kyrie Elam stepping up for Christian Benford. I wanted to get your take on how he played, how you thought he played, if he looked like he was out of place. I didn't really necessarily think he looked out of place, but because there's decisions that are going to be made here on this roster, and Elam is a big part of that here, whether or not you're picking up that 5th-year option down the road.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing because of the money. Because he's got number 1 money. It's a high number. But I will say this, I give him credit. He's settled into that 3rd spot. I mean, from a year ago where he was, Dan always says, break glass in case of emergency to play him. They didn't have faith in him. He didn't look confident. The guy playing out there now and the guy we saw at camp and have seen in spurts is a physical player who's playing with some confidence. Yes, Tyreek Hill beat him on a double move. It's Tyreek Hill. And he got some yardage on him. But he was physical. He forced the fumble on Odell. Obviously, Odell was down, but played that way. I think they have confidence in him in that spot. Now, to say that, though, and be the 3rd corner on the team and to give him first-round money, I would be surprised if that happens. But you can still, sign a player, even if you don't give him the 5th-year option. I don't think that would happen. Honestly, it depends on what they do. Like if Rasul Douglas gets an extension, they love Benford. I don't know if you're paying that for a corner that in that 5th year, but he has stepped up. He's been a pro. He's accepted his role, and he's been ready when they've needed him. And I thought he was pretty good yesterday.
Mike, back to the Bills and Colts here.
Yeah.
Who would you rather see at quarterback for Indy here? Is it the known commodity, I guess, in Joe Flacco, and maybe he plays better than he did last night, or are you willing to see what Anthony Richardson would do with another chance here?
I don't know what the Colts are doing. Listen, I like Flacco. I think in the right setting, Flacco can still make plays, right? It just looked so bad last night, and it seems like an odd fix with him and Shane Steichen as your quarterback. That to me sounds like ownership getting involved and general manager and saying, you drafted this kid though. You drafted him. If you're the Colts, don't you want to see what he can do? I know he isn't throwing the ball well, but I mean, you got to figure it out. Teams will be quick to make that move. As far as the Bills, quite honestly, I think you'd rather see Richardson. I think you'd rather see the guy that won't handle things. They do have Jonathan Taylor. Look, run the ball. Look, you saw it yesterday with the Dolphins. I thought the Dolphins had a great game plan, and I think it worked. I think the Dolphins played for the team they have now with all the injuries on defense. I think they played about the game they wanted to play. They turned it over early in the quarter, which was big, and they let Ray Davis go flying down the field, missed tackle for a touchdown. But I thought they played the game they wanted to map out there. And that included running the ball, and Tua was really good. He was accurate. He threw the ball well. You can get that out of Flacco. I was thinking, this makes it a little tougher out there. Last night, notwithstanding, I think for the Bills, they'd probably rather see the kid. But who knows what happens in the game. Knowing the Colts, they'll bench Flacco at halftime, and Richardson will come in and try to run around the field and try to make plays.
Well, it's so funny because you watched the game yesterday, and if the Colts win that game in Minneapolis, we're having a different conversation about the Colts coming in, or about the Bills going into Indianapolis on Sunday. And I can't help but wonder if there's a divide in that locker room because of how they've handled this, whether or not there's half of the guys in the locker room that want Richardson out there because they believe he's the future and he's the guy that can get them wins. Because if you're saying Joe Flacco gives us the best chance to win, I think you need to see a better Joe Flacco than what we saw last night.
I agree with you. I'm wondering, there's a lot of young guys in the locker room. Richardson, they know he hasn't played well. He does give them something in the running game. He's a beast. And it's kind of like, hey, come on, you're going to put this kid out there, let him play. And to bench a young player like that when they did is really something, because it's hard to just jump him right back in there. Like, what do you say? Oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Go back in the game. I don't think I would have done that if I was the Colts. I don't like when organizations play that desperation game. I guess maybe that's the way the Colts are feeling. They think maybe they catch a little lightning in a bottle with Flacco. You saw what he did with Cleveland. But in this case, if I'm just, of all teams, the Colts, I'm just a neutral observer watching them. I wanted to see this kid play it out. He's got limited time in the league. He's thrown some awful passes this year. But let him get a shot and see what happens. So I think if you talk to Sean McDermott and he would actually answer it, he'd rather see Richardson in the game because of the mistakes right now. But, Flacco did not look good. And with any offense last night, they might have won that game.
Mike, we didn't have you on here in a few weeks, not in the month of October, and I just want to share this story with everybody.
Okay.
No, a text from Mike Danger. Congratulations. Better team won. Mets dominated. Mike Catalana is a gentleman.
Yeah, I'm an accurate reporter. I tell you what I see. I told you beforehand, Mets in 4. They were the better team, playing better. The Phillies were all in their heads swinging. You could throw the ball anywhere within 10 feet of home plate. Phillies are going to swing at it. They were, and that was the difference in the Dodgers. The Dodgers actually tried to make you throw strikes, and that's why they scored 114 runs against them in 6 games. But the Mets were the better team. They deserved it. Now, it was your one-time run. It was nice. You got all the little stuff going on in the songs and all. This will be playing in every rain delay for the next 20 years on SNY, because obviously that's going to be it for the Mets. But it was a nice little run, and I congratulated the better team that won the series.
Mike, with all that being said now, with the benefit of hindsight, when you look at the Yankees in the World Series and you look at that roster and how they performed, how did they get to the World Series? I mean, was it just the addition of Soto and a healthy Judge over the course of the season? Because that looked – I mean, I'm still disappointed that we didn't get a better series out of those two teams.
Yeah, and it should have been better, right? The Yankees should have won Game 1, and they obviously just gagged away the last game. And the Dodgers did it really without Ohtani being Ohtani.
And without starting rotation. I mean, they don't even have a starting rotation on that team.
I know. It's funny in that way. But the Yankees, look, they had a pretty easy run to the World Series. Cleveland gave them the scare, but they won. They are a regular season team. I didn't like their lineup all year long. I mean, Soto's a very good player. I think he's gone. I don't know. I just feel like when the guy sits there, while you understand it, when he sits there with no emotion at all after the game, he's like, it's big time to be a free agent. I'm excited about it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you just lost the World Series. And listen, he played great. He's an outstanding player. I don't know. I have some people telling me that the Nationals could be in on him to get him back if they want to spend a little money. He's still very popular there. Can you imagine that, him coming back with a bunch of these kids that have helped, at least some of them that have helped build up that team. But I think he goes to the highest bidder. Yeah, could it be the Yankees? Could it be the Mets? I guess, these teams, you keep hearing the Phillies. I don't think so. I think it's so funny. He's a Gold Glove candidate. I think he's kind of a butcher in the outfield myself. He's got a good arm, I think he's a DH. He's a DH waiting to happen, at least the way I see it. But the Yankees lineup, you're right. It's like you watch it and you're like, so many holes. Judge was incredible during the year, and then and Giancarlo Stanton, turned back time a little bit and was fantastic and helped get him there. But not a great team.
3 stars, a first baseman who can't hit, Volpe, who's very hit and miss, and a bunch of guys who just aren't going to get on base. I mean, in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, they're kind of lucky to get to the World Series because that's not really a World Series roster.
No, not at all. And it's funny. It's easy. I mean, Boone gets a lot of heat, and he should. But I'm like, sometimes I look and I go, that 5th inning, you're going to blame. I mean, you could, if you're going to blame it on Boone, you're going to say they didn't do enough in spring training about fundamentals.
That's right.
I mean, seriously, Garrett Cole doesn't cover first. Aaron Judge drops a simple fly ball.
Yeah.
I mean, just stuff like that. It's people a lot of times like to blame coaches or managers, and there's enough to blame Boone on. But come on, guys, make the simple play.
Well, what about because Verducci brought this up in real time, calling the timeout, which is essentially sending it out. Because if Cole is laboring that much, I can't help but wonder, he's mentally fatigued too when he forgets to do that, Mike. And I think that would be the second. That's the only second guess I have on Boone in that inning.
Yeah. Yes. I'll put it this way. He didn't do it, so you think, well, maybe it's the case. It's covering first base. Verducci also said it's the thing they do day one of spring training. It's like they do it. And even that, even if you think the guy's making the play, hundreds of times you see the pitcher run over there and the first baseman waves him off. I don't know what – I believe Cole got locked in, got those 2 strikeouts, and then just had a brain freeze. And maybe that was from all that. Maybe – he would have gone out there. He also knows Cole. Cole he seems to be like a pretty intense guy. Maybe he felt like let him grind out there, and it worked. I mean, come on. He got 2 strikeouts when he was rattled.
Yeah.
And then come on, he's a major leaguer. He's going to get $800 million a year or whatever he signs for in this next deal. And Judge, it's a line drive right to him, not even a little looper, easy play. After he'd made a tremendous play in an inning earlier, 2 innings earlier. So honestly, that's what they were. But they were a fundamentally flawed, horrendous base running team all year long. And they deserve that to be the way they go out because they are a flawed baseball team.
What are you working on at Buffalo Plus this week that we could check out, Mike?
All right, so we're putting something together. Today we do a segment called You Ask, We Answer is coming up. Tomorrow I'm talking to a reporter in Indianapolis all about the Colts, where they are, some of the stuff we're talking about, but from their perspective, we always do that. We got our podcast coming up on Thursday, and we got an appearance we're doing. If anybody is listening in the Orchard Park area, Buffalo area, we're going to be at Whalen Brewing in Orchard Park to do our podcast live. That's a week from Wednesday. So they're taking us on the road. How about that?
Like it.
Fantastic.
A week from Wednesday. So that should be a lot of fun. And, I'm keeping Dan and Jenna busy. It's full-time work, but somebody's got to do it. So.
Mike, appreciate the time, and safe travels to Indy this week.
All right, sounds good, fellas.
Mike Catalana, the Hall of Famer, 13 Web Sports, BuffaloPlus.com, sharing his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and a little bit more, too. Never too soon to start thinking about next season. What if Soto went to the Nationals?
That'd be interesting. That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. Highest bidder. I mean, everybody's saying it's going to be the highest bidder. There's no loyalty. It's who's going to pay you the most. Okay. That would mean your Mets are certainly in play, Gino. You got deep pockets.
They might just do that to tweak the Yankees a little bit.
Sure.
Why not? For the wrong reasons,
Let's take a break and come back. We're going to talk to Hot Take Hickey, Ryan Hickey, Infinity Sports Network Colts guy. He's going to join us here at 4:25, and we'll learn more about the Indianapolis Colts, talk about some of the news and notes, headlines from around the NFL as well. And up next, I mentioned this earlier, that the Bills-Dolphins game might have been the most unexpected outcome this weekend in the NFL. One team specifically making a move today, and it's less on the coach, I think, than it is on his quarterback. We'll explain.
Yeah, and the Dolphins came in, and if I laid out the stats and kind of told you what Miami would do, you would have thought Miami would win. They didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
Where do the Dolphins go from here? I think it's worth exploring.
All right, we'll get to that and more. Ryan Hickey joining us in about a half an hour or so. Your call's always welcome at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
WK9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
A 61-yard field goal from Tyler Bass, franchise record. The Bills moved to 7-2 thanks to the 3-point win over the Miami Dolphins. Head coach Sean McDermott to address reporters coming up here shortly. One of the questions coming out of the game, the status of wide receiver Keon Coleman. Rookie Ray Davis contributing with a 63-yard touchdown.
I was able to get it, and the biggest thing as a running back, once you get to that third level, you got to be able to make a guy miss. So that was like the biggest thing in my head was make sure I make him miss. After that, kind of just blacked out from there. I heard the whole crowd, so I assumed nobody was around me.
What about the Colts? We'll talk to Ryan Hickey, Infinity Sports Network, coming up later this hour here in the Sports Bar. Saints firing head coach Dennis Allen. The Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is going to be out multiple weeks with a hamstring pull. Syracuse basketball playing their first regular season game tonight. They take on Lemoyne. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Kick by Bass is long enough, and it is good! Bombs away for Tyler Bass, who bombs it from 61! It's a career best for the Bills kicker. Unbelievable! The Bills, in inspiring fashion, win 30-27 and improve to 7-2 on the season. What a finish!
Mike Danger.
We'll continue to discuss yesterday's win. We love your calls at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. If you want to pull up a stool and join us.
Gene Battaglia.
They won. This is where the bar's at.
Yeah.
So at least you can kind of take a deep breath and like, all right, great. We're on to the next one.
It's Victory Monday. What do we do here in the Sports Bar?
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Now we'll save that for happy hour because we got to. I'm not trying to deprive you, Gino. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's like
We got,
candy. Get a
got
little bit.
have business to attend to here. I mean, you mentioned him in your update. Ray Davis with the play of the game, the play that really kind of tilted things in favor of the Bills, taking that Josh Allen pass and taking it 63 yards for the touchdown, also running 4 times for 20 yards, 90 yards of offense on the day. The guy has just been a treat this season, his rookie year with the Buffalo Bills and the Fan Rochester's Man on a Mission today, brought to you by the Open Door Mission. Go to opendoormission.com to see how you can guarantee a win for someone today.
Well, that's a certainly worthy selection, but I question you. Like, this is not parenting. Like, you're not, like, giving us too much of a good thing. We don't get the music here.
We're going to get the music again. But, you know, there's a thing called, I always believe, like, if you really want to create attraction, sell yourself like a drug. Just a little bit of a taste. Just a little bit of a taste. And then you desire it more. Like, right now, you're an addict. Right now,
I need a little Italian music.
You're ready for Bruno Martino.
To me, it's the way to celebrate a Buffalo Bills win.
Oh, we will. We will.
I was thinking about, okay, I'm listening to Nate Geary on the drive back last night. I'm like, you know what?
You know what we could use? You know what?
Yeah.
Nate's show needs some Italian music. That's what he could use. He needs the sounds of Bruno Martino to spice things up a little bit.
Who had the Bills at 7-2? Be honest.
Not me.
Be honest. Especially, hey, win the first 3, lose the next 2. It's a 4-game winning streak here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could say, all right, well, it's the Jets, it's the Titans, it's the Dolphins, it's the Seahawks. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
A win's a win. You don't have to apologize for your schedule. And the Seahawks game made a lot of people nervous, yourself included. The Titans game, we for whatever reason, we always have the memories of Derrick Henry stiff-arming Josh Norman to the moon and wondering if the Titans are still that physical team. Even without Derrick Henry, they weren't. The Jets, round 2 in Orchard Park, could be exciting.
Or it could be Aaron Rodgers is done, although I don't know if you heard they're running the table, so that could be for the division.
Well, good luck with that.
Sarcasm, folks. Are we going to get nervous and jerky about the Colts here?
I think there are elements of the Colts to worry about. The biggest being their running back and their run game. If you think Jonathan Taylor is still a threat, and I do, then your job is to eliminate him and force Joe Flacco to beat you. Not unlike what you tried to do yesterday. You didn't want Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle to beat you deep, so you kind of took that away even though Hill did get down for a couple. And the run game for Miami was efficient. They were effective. And we've seen that throughout the course of this season. It's the Bills' defense. It's how they write it up, how they draw it up. They don't want to give up that big play, ever. So they focus on keeping everything in front of them. And unfortunately, when you play that cover 2, you sometimes leave yourself vulnerable to the run game. We'll see. We'll see. Jonathan Taylor is the element that makes me nervous. What I saw last night out of Joe Flacco shouldn't create any sort of anxiety for a Bills fan. I mean, Joe Flacco didn't look like Joe Flacco of last night. And Joe Flacco's season with the Browns last season ended in a game where Houston pretty much had him figured out. So this is still the NFL, and teams will figure you out pretty quickly. You could still argue that Joe Flacco gives the Colts the best chance to win, but we shouldn't be shocked if in the middle of the week they say, yeah, we're gonna give it back to the kid. We don't know what's going on in that locker room right now. I have a feeling that it's divided. I have a feeling that you have a locker room right now that is split, that there isn't any unity, that you got some guys that want Richardson out there and some guys that think Flacco might give them the best chance to win. Whatever the case may be.
Maybe. It's one of the it's a weird situation. Yeah. I think we all can kind of agree on that. Yeah. And I think because of that, I think that this Bills team will sit up straight and look, they got gashed on the ground yesterday. Do I expect that back-to-back weeks? Better not.
The idea of it being a look-ahead spot when you have Kansas City waiting in the hole, I kind of agree with Catalano. Like, this team, I think, is too well coached for them to use that as an excuse, or to say, oh no, we were only partially thinking about Indianapolis. We really were licking our chops for that home matchup against Kansas City. I don't know that's how this team rolls. I think they're going to focus on Indianapolis and deal with what they have to do this week.
Well, in the McDermott era, you always have this team stubbing their toe in November, whether that's the Urban Meyer game, whether it's last year, 12 men on the field against the Broncos. You're running out of opportunities here. This would be the one game. There are only 2 games left in the month of November for this Buffalo Bills team. Yeah, thanks to a win over the Dolphins. Danger, this fact actually blows my mind. And maybe you lived through this as a Bills fan. Maybe you already knew this. But this is the fact. The Bills went an entire decade without beating the Miami Dolphins, if you could imagine. The 1970s, twice a year. Here's your loss, Buffalo, courtesy of the Miami Dolphins. And that was with the Bills with O.J., and the Dolphins were that good. And this is the fact. If the Bills, again, sweep the Dolphins next year, that lead will be gone. These two franchises will be tied for the all-time series. This is after the Bills gave a 20-game lead, essentially.
Yeah.
The series right now is 62-60-1 in favor of Miami. I never thought it'd be possible to pass Miami all time, but if you're a Dolphin fan, where's the hope right now? Apparently Vic Fangio wasn't the problem on defense.
No, I think Vic Fangio just wanted a better job, and I wouldn't be shocked if Miami cleans house. If Mike McDaniel is out, he doesn't seem right. Even when in press conferences, I know he was always, oh, he's funny, he's quirky, he's different, he's unique, he's a genius. He's off. There's something off with him right now. He's not entirely dialed in.
Well, it's the Tua's gone, what's the plan? There is no plan. We're bringing in Tyler Huntley, who doesn't have a skill set anywhere close to Tua, but we're going to run the same offense. Mm-hmm. It's a little strange.
But 2 wins at this stage of the season, even with the Tua injury, I mean, you got to be on the hot seat. I'm sorry. He's got to be somebody you consider to be in trouble, in fear of losing his job.
Well, especially since you have an owner that is kind of a jock sniffer.
Oh, he's completely irrational.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think if you're in Miami, brace for it. Brace for another season next season where if you have a new head coach, you have a new regime, you probably still have the same quarterback. But
for that reason, I don't think they should make that move. Just what would be the plan to fix that defense? Oh, the injuries. Every team has injuries. Mm-hmm. I get that. It's like I never thought the Bills, though, would be 4.5 up on the Dolphins, 5 essentially with the 2-game with the sweep here?
Yeah, they're in good shape, obviously, to win their 5th straight AFC East title. And I would actually say, Gino, that the result of yesterday's game between the Bills and Dolphins was the most unexpected of yesterday's action in the NFL. Favorites went 13-1
Wow.
straight up, with the only loss being the Saints losing at Carolina as a favorite. And let's face it, none of us should consider Derek Carr losing ever a surprise or an upset. Carr is now the first quarterback in NFL history to lose a start to 31 different teams, and he'll have a chance for the sweep to lose to team number 32 later this season when he faces his former team, the Raiders, in Week 17. Don't tell me that there's not meaningful football late in the season. Week 17, Derek, we want greatness in the sports bar. You lose that game to your former team. I mean, the guy threw 2 hospital balls, knocked his receivers out of the game, wasted a productive day by Alvin Kamara, and now his blood is on his hands from the team firing Dennis Allen. Derek Carr, backup quarterback next season.
Well, this was the move the Saints needed to make, and the GM should also be gone. If they're stop with this kicking the can down the road thing. That is not a quick rebuild. This is not a destination for Bill Belichick, because if the Saints are being honest with themselves, you got the whole thing, you get the cap cleaned up, and you start over in what should be a winnable division until you get franchise quarterbacks entering that division. And I don't know, maybe panic someday is that. They don't have one in Carolina. Baker Mayfield's okay. As soon as you get the cap cleaned up, I think it's just disappointing. Like, the Saints started off 2-0. Their fan base pulled off one of the all-time brass moves in Week 2. You remember this? They win in Dallas.
Parade.
And they have the parade around the stadium with the band and the drum, and that. Can you imagine any other fan base doing that?
I don't have sympathy for them. I don't have sympathy for Cowboys fans who are miserable today. Like, your season is over. You did everything you could before the season even started to tank your season, and now you're without your quarterback probably for at least 3 weeks.
Well, and gosh, for our own viewing. Cowboy fans, if I'm going to offend you, I'm sorry. That's going to be the late afternoon game here. After we're done watching Bills and Colts, we get Eagles and Cooper Rush. Oh, it gets better. And by better, I mean not better. Thanksgiving. Hey, the Cowboys take on Daniel Jones and the Giants.
Yeah, you want those games to be meaningful. That's going to suck. The Bears are going to get boat raced by the Lions in the early window. What's the late window? Maybe I'll watch Gladiator 2 with my family. Maybe I'll take a day off from football on Thanksgiving.
I was willing to give your coach kind of a little bit of room. I know Bears fans. Here's my take. That corner that was not ready for the play. Stevenson apparently disciplined or wasn't going to start, and then he skips practice. Okay, I understand he's got some talent. I understand he was a second-round pick. Why isn't he cut? Why isn't he cut right now? If you were going to make that play and then just skip practice because I'm upset, like it could be just a byproduct of, hey, we live in the portal era and this isn't going well for me. Dude, you're in the pros, dude. This might be it.
Hey, can I go back to New Orleans for a second? Because as we're talking, this thought kind of crossed my mind, and this is actually something that I would actually sign up to see. I would love to see this happen in the NFL. I think this. You know me, I love a good story, a good narrative. What if the Saints are bad, like really bad next season? New head coach, 1-win team, 2-win team.
Probably, why not, right?
Arch Manning to the Saints. The circle is complete.
You don't think they're not talking about that?
They better be talking about that right now. I mean, if you're down on the Saints, if you're a Saints fan and you're like, "There's no hope. Our best days are behind us." How do you you bring in the grandson of the great? You bring in Peyton's nephew and Eli's nephew.
Archie Manning, to me, is the greatest quarterback who just kept getting up and getting the snot kicked out of him.
That's right.
That's like one of my first football memories. That Saints teams they were never good. They were the Aints danger.
They were terrible.
They were terrible.
Before Jets fans were wearing paper bags on their heads, the Saints were doing it for a generation. They really were. My mom, rest her soul, she felt so much sympathy for the Saints because the fans wore paper bags on their heads that she adopted them as her favorite team. She loved the Saints. She's very religious, but she also loved the Saints because she felt bad. She felt sympathy for the fans who wore bags on their heads during the Archie Manning era. Yeah, I don't know. that feels like a long-term play if you're the New Orleans Saints.
How could Archie Manning and then this guy be on the same team and then they would not win?
Man, the great Chuck Muncie. Just a strong, powerful back. Would free base in the locker room. Get the snot kicked out of him. You want to talk about a Saint getting the snot kicked out of him. That's the picture right there. We need one of those of Archie Manning getting the smelling salts, somebody holding his horn-rimmed glasses.
Of all the gifts I will receive this holiday season, I don't know anything's going to top that.
That warms my heart. And if you're
right there.
If you don't know what we're talking about, hey, here's a little tip. We live stream the show on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and also on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. That's a portrait of the great Chuck Muncie.
I just pulled a Rob Ray. I'm sorry. As you can see here, no, I'm not seeing. I'm driving.
Yeah.
I held up to the camera, the
yeah.
picture of
Well,
Chuck Muncie.
listen, again, an invite to check out the YouTube channel, like and subscribe while you're there. Leave a comment, a little win in the sales. We always appreciate that. We'll go to Ryan Hickey, Infinity Sports Network, JR Sport Brief, Colts guy, Penn State guy. We're going to get Hick's take on all of that stuff. Hot Take Hickey next on The Fan.
You're listening to Sports Update.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott, just speaking now, says defensive end DeJuan Smoot has a wrist injury that will require surgery that's going to put him on IR. Keon Coleman needs further testing on his wrist injury. Amari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Reggie Gilliam all day today. Tyler Bass hitting from 61 to beat Miami. Bass on the fan reaction.
Man, it feels, again, it's very emotional. To go out there and help my team win, man, it's emotional. And for the fans, too, to give them something to cheer about, man, it means a lot.
Ryan Hickey from the Infinity Sports Network will talk some Bills Colts coming up next. Saints have fired head coach Dennis Allen. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, he's going to be out a while with a hamstring injury. Syracuse basketball plays the first regular season game tonight as they'll be taking on Lemoyne. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Talk some Week 9 NFL. We'll talk some Indianapolis Colts. We'll even talk some Penn State football. With Hot Take Hickey, Ryan Hickey, Infinity Sports Network, JR Sport Brief. Joining us now in the Sports Bar. It's always nice to have you on with us, Ryan. We are... You can't even say it.
No.
We are?
No. Oh, you're killing me. We are losers. I hate to say it. That's what we are.
All right,
losers.
Are you in the camp of, all right, maybe it's time to move off of Franklin here?
Yes. Because it's the same thing every time. Like, every time they play a great team where the talent is equal or the other team is better, all the same issues keep on popping up. The receivers don't make plays. The offense itself struggles to move the ball. In the case on Saturday, can't punch it in the red zone when they're there, knocking on the door of the goal line. The defense usually plays well, but there's always a moment or two where you really need a big stop. They can't come through to get it. There's always questions about the play calling. It always feels like they play not to lose instead of going out there being aggressive, playing to win. It's literally the same story every single year. It plays out the same. They've lost now 8 in a row to Ohio State. They lose every big game, it feels like, on their schedule. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. I'm done with it.
Well, Ryan, you could distill it down to that fourth quarter goal line stand by Ohio State, and I can't understand for the life of me why Franklin doesn't get Tyler Warren at least a touch on that final red zone trip. He was the guy that got you down there. He's been a playmaker for you all season. It just feels like coaching malpractice, inexcusable.
I agree. It doesn't make sense because all season long they've been creative, and they put him literally everywhere. He's snapped the ball. He's taken the snap from under center. He's taken the snap in the shotgun. He's lined up as a receiver. He's lined up as a tight end. He's lined up as a running back. He's lined up everywhere. And for whatever reason, they thought in this situation on 1st and goal from the 3-yard line, we're going to line up, and we think we can just overpower right now the strength of the Ohio State defense, which is their interior, and we're just going to push them around because we can, was ridiculous. And that 4th down pass had no chance. At that point, you kind of knew that game is over. But it's just like, why all of a sudden, all year long, you're creative and you're putting him in all different spots. He has that great run that gets you down to the 3-yard line. Why you pretend he's just invisible? It makes zero sense. It is so maddening.
Ryan Hickey, Infinity Sports Network, Penn State grad, Colt fan. Now, this is one reason. Well, you'd say, there are some Bills fans that are going to be worried about this. Last we saw these two teams play, that was up here, and, that was Jonathan Taylor going bonkers for 5 touchdowns, 41. That was on November 21st, 2021. Since that game, Frank Reich has been fired by 2 different teams, so it's been that long. What? Give us kind of the state of the Indianapolis Colts right now, because there was a lot of drama last week, and what you saw offensively last night left, Ryan, a lot to be desired.
Absolutely. The state right now is chaotic. Look, there's a real chance here that Joe Flacco could I expect him to bounce back and play a lot better next week compared to what we just saw last night against the Vikings. But the state right now is chaotic because – for me, at least going into this year, I thought they could be a playoff team. I thought they should be a playoff team, in part because I really thought Anthony Richardson here in year 2 would take a step, would stay healthy and be a little bit more consistent. And the fact that right now, he's been bad. I'm not going to try to dress up any other way. He's been awful. But he's played 10 games in his career.
He's only started and finished 6 games in his career, and the fact that they have given up on him, I don't care what they say, they gave up on him. That's it. They threw the towel in. He's not going to play unless Flacco gets hurt, but they're really telling you how they feel about him already. I just don't think right now that that's enough of a sample size, but I also think they're miscalculating the roster and how good it is, because in playing Joe Flacco, they're also telling you, well, we have a playoff caliber team right now, and we're going to capitalize on that with a veteran that we feel better in versus kind of the up and down nature of a still young and developing quarterback. And the Colts to me are not there. Like, Minnesota's defense is really good, and Minnesota overall is a good team, but even still, I mean, Sam Darnold gave you 3 turnovers yesterday, and you had literally the worst offensive game of the season when a guy that was supposed to be starting was supposed to be your best option.
Yeah, I think about
right now is a mess.
I think about that decision a lot, Ryan, and we talked about it a lot last week, as I'm sure you did as well. Does it make sense? What kind of a sample size do you need to see? How soon is too soon to pull the plug on somebody you invested a top 4 pick in? And, I could make the argument that when you're sitting at 4-4, if you're Shane Steichen, you say, okay, well, Joe Flacco clearly gives us the best chance to win. Or maybe it was somebody above Shane Steichen that made that call. But now I wonder about what is going on internally, the things that we don't see, the things that we don't hear. Do you have a locker room divided with half of them maybe saying, yeah, we get it. Coach says it's Flacco and he gives us the best chance to win, with the other half saying, they did Richardson dirty on this one. They didn't give him enough time, and he's our young guy. He's a young guy who's still going to grow and learn. Or do you think that Richardson tapping out is such an unforgivable sin that the locker room won't come around on him anytime soon?
That, to me, is what it seems like. And they've denied it. They've tried to talk about, how that's not really going to the decision of benching him, but how can it not? Right? There's plenty of reports right now that the locker room is divided on him, that there's some guys that think he deserves to be benched. And I get, just the tapping out alone, I get it from a player perspective of you see, you're putting your heart out there, and you look over at the guy that's supposed to be the face of your franchise and the leader of the team saying on 3rd and goal, I got to get out of here, I need a break, is inexcusable. And I understand that part of it, but also you need to have a good enough culture to at least, I think, help foster the realization of just look, when we drafted this guy last year, right, this was not just a plug and play. We're going to go, compete right away and be like the Texans with C.J. Stroud. Right? He came in right away and had a good team. The comp I make a lot is with you guys in Buffalo. You took Josh Allen. It's kind of the same thing. He played more in college at Wyoming than Richardson did at Florida, but he's a talented, physically, gifted quarterback that's extremely raw. And I get, staying healthy helped expedite the development of Allen. So by this time, in year 2 for him, the Bills were on their way to the playoffs. Well, I thought the Colts and Bills, at the times they drafted their quarterbacks, were in similar spots where their cupboard wasn't bare. There was competency and leadership at head coach. It wasn't like a total disaster like you're seeing, for example, with Bryce Young and the Panthers. And all of us, you knew what you were doing in getting a guy like Richardson, and the fact that the patience has been thrown out so quickly, it's maddening and confusing.
Ryan, I do make a decision like that, it's got to go all the way up. You had, well, he still is there, but my question is about Irsay. Is he still involved day to day? Because the Jim Irsay we all kind of knew, he would be on X, or it was called Twitter. He'd be voicing his opinion. Is he okay here?
From my understanding, I don't think he had much to do with this. He obviously got involved, 2 years ago when Frank Reich was fired and they brought back Jeff Saturday, and that entire disaster went down. Yeah. But since that time, to his credit, he has, for the most part, allowed the people he's hired to do their job. And so far up to this point, there's been no real reason to interfere. Last year, Richardson gets hurt early in the year, and this team in the last week of the season is playing a home game where if they win that, they win the division. So, when competency is happening and there's winning and success, he stays out, thankfully. And I do think he's been ill. I just don't think he's got enough energy right now to come in here and demand Richardson being benched. I don't think it's a Jim Irsay decision. I don't think it's even a Chris Ballard decision. I think it is partly the locker room of just look, if you want to have any sort of respect and have us bought in, you can't have a guy tapping out. You can't have a guy playing this poorly, playing at least without any sort of punishment, which could be in this case sitting him on the bench for poor play.
Hot take Hickey. Ryan Hickey from the Infinity Sports Network joining us here in the sports bar. I want to get your thoughts on a couple of different beats from around the NFL. One, I mean, the Cowboys felt like they did everything they could to kind of submarine their season before it even started, and now you're going to be without Dak Prescott for at least the next few weeks. I mean, the NFC East looks like once again we're going to have another new division champion. It's like, 19 straight years where the NFC East doesn't have a repeat, conference champ or a repeat divisional champion. I mean, this ain't good for the Cowboys, and we're not going to have a meaningful game on Thanksgiving, which really has me more upset than anything.
You are right about that, without a doubt. I actually look at this as a blessing if you think about it here, because yesterday, of course, Jerry Jones, despite the loss, saying, I still believe in the guys, referencing Michael Irvin's story from was it 1990s about I still believe in coming back, and this team is, he believes in the coaches and the players and this locker room turning around. This season's over. This season's been over since it started. This team is not very good. They're not talented. It's no accident that they're 3-5 right now, trending in the wrong direction. Everything about them stinks. They lost a ton of talent. They didn't replace it at all. So what we're seeing from the Cowboys is exactly what they are. So I think, if anything, that you never root for injury, obviously. But now Dak Prescott looking to be out multiple weeks. Maybe they put him on IR. Maybe he's out 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I mean, this season is going in the tank. And so if you're a Cowboys fan now, I think the worst-case scenario for you this year was going 7-10, 8-9, missing the playoffs, but, again, not having a top-tier pick. At least now at 3-5, whether it's Cooper Rush, whether it's Trey Lance, I mean, they're not going to win another game by the time Dak comes back. So if he misses 4 games, let's call it, maybe you're 3-9, 3-10 when he comes back. Maybe that at least pushes Jerry to say, you know what, let's wave the white flag on the season, let's call it, and let's just embrace the tank, because that's what the Cowboys need, a lot of talent in a lot of different places. So having a high draft pick, having multiple high draft picks here, a high first, a high second, is in their best interest. And Dak not playing, for everything you want to say about Dak, he's their second best player on the team, third best player on the team. He still gives them a real chance every single Sunday to win. Without him, they got no chance of winning, which now at this point with where the Cowboys are, that's a good thing. You don't want to win another game if you're Dallas, I think.
How legit is Washington? I mean, we saw them with the Hail Mary last week. They beat up, they did what they were supposed to do, beat the Giants. So I don't know what we take out of that. But right now, if the season ends, they be the 2 seed. Can we realistically talk about a rookie quarterback leading the Washington Commanders to the Super Bowl?
No, I would say no. I think they've been a great story. And when you talk about legit, I think if you're talking about division, are they legitimately a division contender? Absolutely. I think they have a real chance here to win the NFC East, in part because I do not trust the Eagles on full display again yesterday with the stupidity of Nick Sirianni's decision-making, being stupidly aggressive and almost costing his team at the end. But, for how great the Commanders have been this year, I don't think they're on the same level as the 49ers, the Lions, even a team like the Vikings or the Packers. I still think they do have a ways to climb. Even the Falcons and the Bucks I feel better about right now than Washington. But, I mean, we should be talking about this team hosting a playoff game in January, and depending on who they're matched up against, I think they could absolutely be, spunky enough and win a game. But I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, at least not in year one. But this team that future is very bright. Very bright.
Ryan, the Saints move on from their head coach today. Dennis Allen fired. They lose to Carolina. Fireable offense, apparently. Their 7th straight loss. Now, hear me out on this, because we kind of workshop this out in real time here in the sports bar. We could see a world where the Saints are really, really bad next year. That the Saints, could take this off season to really clear the decks, start from scratch, tear it down to the studs, and maybe be picking in the top 3 come the 2026 draft, where the circle becomes complete and Arch Manning becomes the new franchise quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. Am I crazy? Is that even possible? Could that be a thing?
That should be the thing. I love that idea. And you're 100% right. I don't know why it took them this long to number one fire Dennis Allen, and I don't know why they've kicked the can down the road so far of doing exactly what you said. This team is going nowhere. Even forget this year, even last year, the same thing. You look at this roster, and it's they're not very good, but they're not bad enough to have a top 5 pick. But they're going nowhere. They're stuck in the middle for the longest time. I don't know if they just were delusional and try to convince themselves that they were still competitive with Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr. They had a bad coach they finally move on from. Now reality's hitting them with 7 losses in a row. Absolutely, ship off Alvin Kamara. Try to get anything you really can from most of these guys. Tear it down. And have a 2 or 3 year plan. That I think I'm with you 100%. that centers around 2026, getting Archie's grandson back in New Orleans and hoping that the second man to come into town has a lot more success or team success than the first. I love it. I'm with you 1,000,000%.
Yeah, who do the Saints hire here to? And Ryan, settle this argument for us. I guess we have to wait for the definitive answer because Bill Belichick, does he coach in the league next year? Now, I don't think it's the Saints. I don't know if that's a team that's ready to win in 2025, but do you think the coach comes back next season?
Maybe
now,
just
be careful, Ryan, because we have a friendly wager here in the sports bar. Gene believes he will. I believe he will not because he's so good at the media thing, and it's such a cush lifestyle compared to what he's used to. Plus, he's got the 24-year-old girlfriend now. There's a box of wine at stake here, so the winner receives a box of wine here in the sports bar. So be very judicious with your answer here.
I like the classiness of you fellas for sure. I'm with you, Danger. Like, I think he's having fun. And I think Bill Belichick is truly enjoying the fact that he could sit back and criticize others and not be criticized and be beloved. And, like, I mean, I don't think it's an act. Like, I was trying to figure it out for a while. Like, he took every opportunity possible, right? He's on the Manning cast. He has his own pot. Like, every single media company that came to him with some sort of idea or pitch, he said yes to. He's doing like a million different things. And it's like, why? Like, if he was just going to take a year off, maybe do 1 or 2 shows, stay relevant. But I think the fact that he's taken, like, 4, 5, 6 media opportunities. Plus now, I mean, you see him with the Halloween pictures. Looks like he's having actually fun, not coaching and grinding over tape 24/7. I think he likes the media thing. And I hope he stays. I think he's been good at it. He's enjoyable. He's funny. Like, he's obviously super knowledgeable and knows what he's talking about. But I like the fact that his dry humor also, I think, for me at least, makes it entertaining. I'm going to guess I'll answer this question more of a hope. I hope he stays in media, and I think he will.
I hope you're wrong just because I'm cheap. I would love a free box of wine. But I would have thought that Jimmy Johnson would have come back and Bill Cowher would have come back. And then these guys realized, wait a second, I could just kind of do something and go home and not watch film and not do all the other stuff and not have the headaches and the after-hour calls and everything else here, Ryan. So you got me a little worried here, bud.
And also get paid well. You know, like you get paid well as a head coach, but now, I mean, I can only imagine Bill's, I'm sure, doing okay right now in terms of the money he's making for all the different ventures he's doing. Sports media, when you're at the top, man, it pays a lot of money. So Bill, like you said, probably the stress is cut down tenfold. The money is less, but it's not drastic. And your lifestyle changes so differently that it's like, why, at his age, why go back for what? You accomplish everything you need to accomplish outside of the wins record. Go back for what?
Yeah, and Andy's going to get the wins record anyways. One last team I wanted to highlight with you, since we have some news out of Vegas today, with them basically firing their entire offensive staff. And you're 2-7, and you keep benching Gardner Minshew as if that's going to make a difference. You went in with a really weak quarterback room into this season. At what point does Antonio Pierce look in the mirror, and is that another guy that when this season ends will be looking for work?
The only reason why I hesitate and struggle to say I think he'll be fired after year one is just because there's been so many changes in Vegas recently, and I don't see Mark Davis as someone who enjoys change, who's someone that has a short temper and a short fuse. Like, I feel like he waits as long as possible, really since the Jack Del Rio firing, where I think he really regretted that. I think he tries to, unless the bottom falls out here, he tries to wait as long as he can. So when you look at, some of the missed opportunities they've had in terms of Rich Bisaccia being there, then leaving, then going for Josh McDaniels, like, I think he'll be patient. Now, with that said, can you already look at this tenure right now since he's been full-time and look at Antonio Pierce and say, is this going to go anywhere or be successful? I think you can already say the answer is no.
Dude, he hired these guys. These were all his guys that they just blew out in the middle of the season.
9 weeks in, you got no plan. And also, like, questions, what does Antonio Pierce do well? Last year, his best attribute is that he got those guys fired up. Honestly, it's easy to do when you play for Josh McDaniels, who makes everybody's life miserable. And, by the way, you suck. At least if you're going to suck, you have fun with Antonio Pierce. Now, like, I just don't know when you said, what does he do well as a head coach? I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah. Ryan Hickey joining us tonight. Monday Night Football. We get the Buccaneers and Chiefs. Question about the Chiefs because we're trying to do the math in our head here, Ryan. Because the AFC East, it's over. We can agree on that. So
yes.
seeding,
we've called the race.
Yeah, like you'll hear that a lot in our next tomorrow. We called this actually 2 weeks ago, and we've been right. The Chiefs here. Do we just pencil them in as a number one? Can Buffalo or Baltimore or somebody else climb up to that rung? How do you view the Chiefs this season? They're undefeated, but I'm not sure they 100% pass the eye test here.
They definitely don't, and they have some real holes here, especially on the offensive side of the ball with some of the injuries that they're facing at receiver, especially here. It's honestly, at this point, until they – I guess I'll put it this way. I think the seeding, if you want to say which team does it matter the most for in terms of getting the number one seed, I think it's obviously, I would say, at least in terms of the three top teams here, if you want to include the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, I think it is the Bills. I think getting that first bye, one less playoff game is massive for them. I think secondly is Baltimore, and then I think for the Chiefs, I don't think at this point it matters where they play. We saw last year they went into Baltimore, no problem, was able to win that game. It looks to me like right now, even with the holes, even though they haven't played the flashy, explosive offense we've seen them have now for years, it's more kind of a grinded out defensive style with the best quarterback in the NFL. They have it where they are asking Mahomes to be their third option essentially. Right? They rely on their defense. I think they can now rely on their run game as well as the two ways to get the job done. And then it's we need Mahomes to make a play or two and throw some passes to these receivers. That's what it feels like. And so with that formula being the way it is, I don't see them losing more than 2 or 3 games. I really don't. So it does feel like even though I don't think they need home field as much as some other teams in the AFC do to have a chance to get back to the Super Bowl, I right now go by default and I say Kansas City I think is going to get the one.
Ryan, when can we hear you on the Infinity Sports Network this week? Are you on with JR tonight?
Oh, I'm with JR every single day, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, and then Hick at night on Sunday, breaking down all the NFL action starting at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on every local Infinity Sports Network affiliate.
Beautiful. Ryan, appreciate it. We'll be checking you out Sunday night, too, and we will be listening to JR at 6 o'clock here tonight. Thanks, Ryan.
Fellas, always a pleasure. Looking forward to well, actually not really, but it's going to be interesting, we'll say at least.
Appreciate it, Ryan. There's Ryan Hickey. You can hear him on with JR tonight. JR Sport Brief gets underway right after the sports bar.
So the Bills and Colts. Now, the Bills don't play there that often, but Mike Danger, I'm going to ask you a question. I'll give you 5 guesses here. The last Buffalo Bills quarterback to start a regular season game in Indianapolis and win.
And win? Ooh. Man, this is a tough one. Trent Edwards.
No.
EJ?
No.
A lot of wins between those two guys. Maybe maybe focus on guys that can actually win games. Who won games as quarterback for the
I'll
Buffalo
say
Bills?
this: it's not a trick question like a Derek Anderson lost there. So I'm not asking something tricky like that. But
so Derek Anderson was starting for the Bills
the last time they
played in Indianapolis.
That was Josh Allen's rookie year. So Josh Allen hasn't played. This will be his first start in Indy.
I mean, how far back do we got to go here? This has got to be, J.P. Lossman?
Nope. Two left.
Well, I mean, now I'm just going to throw Hail Marys like Doug Flutie.
No. One left.
I'm just throwing darts. Rob Johnson.
You got it!
Nice.
All right, so this game, you got to go back to 1998. That is a stat. 26 years since the Buffalo Bills have won in Indy. And in that game, Danger, Rob Johnson, first drive, lands on the football, rib injury. This kickstarts Flutie mania because Doug Flutie leads them back to win. That's the last time the Bills won in Indy.
Wow. So it was Johnson starting the game, not finishing the game.
Right.
And Flutie magic begins in Buffalo in Indianapolis with them winning that game.
Against a bad Colts team. Because the Colts would lose so much, they would draft Peyton Manning.
Right. I was going to say, you know what? The Colts, outside of the Manning luck years, have been bad. They're a bad organization. They've been bad. They had arguably the best quarterback of all time for a good chunk of his career. And then they had Andrew Luck. And since then, they haven't figured it out. They've just been bad. Not bad historically, bad like 2-win bad every single season, but they've been kind of like what the Bills were during the drought year. They're just kind of farting around every single year.
They're farting around right now, 4-5, without a real quarterback.
All right, well, appreciate Hickey giving us a little insight there on his team, the Indianapolis Colts, and we'll keep you updated here through the course of the week and get you ready for Sunday. You'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester kickoff just after 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon here on the Fan. Happy Hour is next, and it's a Victory Monday, Gino, so I'm going to pay it off. I'm going to pay it off. I'm a man of my word, and we will celebrate a Victory Monday the way it's meant to be celebrated in the sports bar. We'll also get to a round of shots, plenty to get to from yesterday's game, and time for your calls if you want to join us at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott this afternoon giving an injury update. DeJuan Smoot is going to go on IR. He's got a wrist injury that will require some surgery. Keon Coleman also has a wrist injury, but Coleman needs further testing. Mari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Reggie Gilliam are all day-to-day. Rookie Ray Davis contributing with the 63-yard touchdown.
I was able to get it, and the biggest thing as a running back, once you get to that third level, you got to be able to make a guy miss. So that was like the biggest thing in my head was make sure I make him miss. After that, kind of just blacked out from there. I heard the whole crowd, so I assumed nobody was around me.
Saints have fired head coach Dennis Allen. The Cowboys will be without Dak Prescott for a while. The quarterback has a hamstring pull. Syracuse basketball playing their first regular season game tonight. The Orange hosting Lemoyne. Amherst next in action coming up Wednesday in Cleveland. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Kick by Bass is long enough, and it is good! Bombs away for Tyler Bass, who bombs it from 61! It's a career best for the Bills kicker. Unbelievable! The Bills, in inspiring fashion, win 30-27 and improve to 7-2 on the season. What a finish!
Mike Danger.
We'll continue to discuss yesterday's win. We love your calls at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. If you want to pull up a stool and join us.
Gene Battaglia.
Day one. This is where the bar's at. So at least you can kind of take a deep breath and like, all right, great. We're on to the next one.
Yeah, it's Victory Monday. What do we do here in the sports bar?
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour on a Victory Monday in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. We appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for watching along on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and on Twitch. You can hear us where we sound our best, the free to download Odyssey app. I'm a man of my word. Got to give the people what they want. Got to give the people what they need. It is a Victory Monday after all. We kick up our feet. The Bills move to 7-2 on the foot. Tyler Bass in a 61-yard field goal. That means we celebrate with the sounds of Bruno Martino in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. Now, you asked for this.
I love it.
Are you sure that this is what the people want on a Victory Monday?
You have people that, who doesn't like this?
If you have a problem with this, I'd love to hear from you at 866-4326. Maybe you don't. You still haven't called in.
I have not, no. I wimped out this week.
The Italian Carousel every Sunday morning before pregame, 7 to 9 here on the Fan Rochester.
It happened organically, Danger. I want to say it was after the Arizona game, and you just hit the wrong button, and Bruno Martini came up, and it was on a Monday after the win. Like, that sounds pretty good. It just kind of hit just right.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could celebrate a number of ways. We choose to lean back, kick our feet up, maybe light a victory cigar, pour a nice glass of scotch or bourbon, whatever your flavor is, and enjoy a little Bruno Martino. Silky smooth. And now you're pregnant. I mean, Tyler Bass was the story, right? Everybody through the course of that game was ready to ship him off. He needs to go. This guy's a bum. Cut him. Can we cut him now? What are we waiting for? Get rid of this loser. 61-yard field goal can act as one hell of a deodorant, I suppose.
Yeah, I think. Don't you love the storyline, though? Maybe this is meant to be. Something like that normally doesn't happen to this team. You can always join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Stephen Victor. Hey, Steve.
There's our guy. Hey, Steve. What's up, bud?
Fellas, let's really step it up here on Mondays for Victory Mondays, and let's get Joe Capagreco in the studio spinning it.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, if we really wanted it, we'd give up a segment. Just let him play. Give us your favorites, Joe. Give us your top 5 for a Victory Monday, and let him go to town.
That would be epic if you can get him in the studio for a Victory Monday.
I don't know. We have a hard time getting him in the studio for a show on a Sunday, but maybe. We'll try.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Steve. Couple things about Joe Capogreco. I've never met him.
Same. Is he a real person or is he a hologram?
But I know the lobby smells like cigarette smoke when we come in on Monday.
What would you expect? I expect Grecian formula and cigarettes. Those are the two aromas that I expect to walk into if I were here on a Sunday morning. Well, unless he's a hologram. If he's the hologram of Joe Capogreco hosting the Italian Carousel every Sunday morning, different story. But, yeah, that's a great idea by Steve. I tell you what, they have to win it all. They win it all.
They win it all.
We make that happen. We make that happen. They win it all. We make that happen. And nothing else will do. They have to win it all. Maybe it's this year. Maybe, I've heard people say, and you just said, is this a team of destiny? These are things that don't normally happen to the Buffalo Bills. We'll see. We'll see. Reasons to feel encouraged, though. You've just dispatched of your entire division. I mean, you haven't even played New England yet, but beating Miami, sweeping that series, knowing that you've got the Jets at home, knowing that you've got 2 against a bad Patriots team, you're 7-2, and I didn't have them at 7-2 at this point of the season.
Do you know when they picked up win number 7 last year? Kansas City, December 10th.
Whew.
They are a month ahead of schedule for a team that we all thought would take some degree of a step back this season.
Totally. I'm raising my hand. Guilty. Absolutely guilty. I couldn't see for the life of me how a team carrying as much dead cap space as the Bills are carrying could field a roster competent enough and good enough to go out there and have a winning product. Josh Allen has been spectacular, and once again, in the second half, he turned it up. The passing game got going after halftime. 13 of 20, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns in the second half of yesterday's game.
He is playing at an MVP level, and one thing that you hope doesn't come back, but the way you beat Josh Allen, you play the 2 safeties up high, and eventually he's going to take his shot and he'll turn the ball over. And no, wasn't that? If anything, yesterday, Josh was checking it down. The guys weren't catching it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like,
the James Cook drop is problematic. The Keon Coleman, deflection that led to the interception, problematic. You want to clean that up. But, man, if those are our biggest problems, then we're starting to run out of problems when you look around the rest of the NFL. There are a lot of teams that are going to be looking for a playoff berth that are in far worse shape than what the Buffalo Bills are in right now.
So we're in commercial break, and this is as close as we'll get to this, but Danger just asked me off the record, hey, what do you think the world looks like tomorrow? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, the trade deadline. That's all we're talking about tomorrow. The trade deadline is what we're talking about tomorrow. Danger is this. There's a spot now going to be open on the roster. You don't want somebody going on IR, but Dwan Smoot goes on IR with a wrist injury.
He was having a nice season, too. I hate that.
Yeah, maybe he'll be back at some point, but okay, there's a reason to go get a defensive lineman. Or maybe you got to get a wide receiver. The fact that they're further testing on Keon Coleman, that's not good. This happened on the Poyer hit at the end, by the way.
Oh, the Poyer hit. While we're talking about that quickly, and we'll talk about who if anybody, the Bills should go after. But I don't know, because I wasn't at the game, Gino, if they did a Poyer tribute, a video tribute to Jordan Poyer. Nobody's really said that they did, which surprises me a little bit. I thought that the Bills would do that. Maybe they're just going to wait until they can make him the legend of the game and wait until he's retired and bring him back in that fashion. But if you're going to do a highlight reel of Jordan Poyer's contributions to the Buffalo Bills, I would submit that Week 2's bad angle on the James Cook long touchdown run and the helmet-to-helmet hit on Keon Coleman need to be a part of that highlight package. Thank you for your service to Buffalo, Jordan Poyer.
Maybe that wasn't up there. I was there yesterday. I didn't see it, but sometimes I'm pulled away during the commercial breaks there. If somebody saw it, let me know. Chris in South Central Kentucky writing in. You can write to us at The Fan Rochester. That's our handle. Celebrations must be organic, whether it's Mr. Brightside at the Bills game or Bruno Martino in the sports bar. What happens when it's forced? It becomes saberhood.
Ooh. Yeah, well.
Hey, fun fact, and this is all I'll say about that team. There's just one team with the worst winning percentage right now in the league. San Jose.
Yeah, the hockey just hasn't been good enough.
Nope. And that concludes our hockey segment today here in the Sports Bar.
Trade deadline.
Yeah.
If the Dolphins were somehow willing to do us a favor and let us have Calais Campbell for a late round draft pick, I would not jump. I would jump at that chance, not hesitate for a second. Because even yesterday, you still saw him out there affecting plays. Yeah, he's advanced in his age, and yeah, you're probably only getting him for the rest of this season. But man, that's a mountain of a human being. If you had him on your defensive line, feel pretty good about the rotation, knowing that you've got some injuries, some guys are banged up.
Saw Ryan Talbot yesterday. He brought up an interesting name, and you could probably do this under the cap here, because he's going to opt out here. Kendrick Bourne. Like, if you're looking at guys in division, if Coleman's injury is going to be multiple weeks, and what have we seen out of Curtis Samuel will make you think, hey, just plug him in and away you go. I don't want this Bills offense to take a step back, so maybe they trade for a wide receiver tomorrow. But again, you got to make sure you're getting something at friendly kind of value. And Bourne's base right now, $1.3 million, but you only owe half of that, so you might be able to make that fit.
I know you don't have to compare team by team, but when you see the Chiefs getting a wide receiver in D-Hop, getting a defensive lineman as well, do you think Brandon Beane looks at that and says, no, we need one. We need a defensive lineman. We got our wide receiver, even though he didn't play this week with his wrist injury. We got to find a way to get another defensive line. We got to get some defensive line depth.
To what degree does Sean McDermott? Now, McDermott was asked about this, and he will just be like, nope, that's Brandon. Publicly, he'll say that, but
yeah, he's not worried about it. I'm not thinking about the trade deadline.
Yeah.
You're not? Okay. No, tell me again how you're not thinking about the trade deadline as the head coach of this team. I mean, you're thinking about it. You can't control what Brandon Beane is going to do, but
after you see, the thing is with recency bias, and this league is so up and down. Do we expect the Bills' run defense to be that shoddy? Better not be. Hasn't been. In fact, like, there's metrics that rank them third, even after yesterday. But you look at that like, oh, wait, we're down to defensive linemen, and I could easily see them getting a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with Carter still on the shelf too here.
Yeah, a little thin there. So it wouldn't shock me if sometime in the next 24 hours we do have a bit of news from the Buffalo Bills and that they've gone out and traded for another player, another piece to add to this roster that will be without DeJuan Smoot for at least, the next 4 weeks now that he's on IR.
Yeah. Not officially yet, but it always opened the roster spot. Could have Christian Benford and Amari Cooper play yesterday? Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't get the sense that you're going to be without either of those guys for the Kansas City game. Certainly.
I mean, I hope that that's not what they're doing. I hope they're not looking ahead to just the Kansas City game, because Indianapolis probably isn't as bad as they looked last night, and I don't think they're as good as they've looked in some of their wins this season either. Has the NFL figured out Joe Flacco this time around? This reincarnation of Joe Flacco that took the league by storm late last year in Cleveland. Have they figured out his limitations at his age at 39?
Well, I'll give the Dandelion a little bit of a pat here, because maybe, or we want to say Sam Darnold is Brian Flores is doing a great job with that Minnesota defense. Yeah. So that might have been a tough spot. Now, Flacco, you would assume, is going to be, and I haven't seen anything definitive, but we were just talking with Ryan Hickey. He's kind of the camp like, okay, you know what? You really didn't give Richardson a chance. 10 games. That was it. 10.
He only started and finished 6 games. Now, I actually believe that if you've done 6 games, you know whether or not you have your guy. I think you can tell within those 6 games. And within those 6 games, what Richardson threw out there wasn't enough for them to say, oh, yeah, we can stick with this guy. We believe in him.
And there's a lot we don't know. Like, is he going in? Is he attentive? Is he, getting things down? How is he in the locker room? All those things.
I'm telling you, man, I think it's the tap out. I think the tap out ruined him. I think the tap out killed his chances in Indianapolis.
It was 1 week ago. we were talking about that. Lost to Houston. Like, wait a second. You never, ever, ever see that from a quarterback at any level.
Your general out there does not tap out. Just does not happen. To see him do that, I mean, if he lost the locker room with that move, it wouldn't shock me. If there are guys in that locker room that think, oh, okay, well, he's still our guy because he's younger and he's more athletic and he can do some great things, I would imagine that there's still some of that faction in the locker room as well. The bigger point here is that it might be a locker room divided in Indianapolis. It might not be a very cohesive team right now coming to play the Bills in Indianapolis this coming Sunday. So Jonathan Taylor is still the threat to me. That's the guy that we all have memories of. Granted, it was a while ago now.
3 years ago.
Right. Different team, different player. I mean, he's been through a lot. He might not have the same ability that he had, what was it, 5 touchdowns?
Yeah.
In one game.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the, oh my gosh, this team is not physical at all.
Well,
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah,
and they've come away.
But we've seen that though. That narrative will raise its ugly. It'll raise its head every now and then. We saw it against Baltimore, obviously, not really physical in that game, and Baltimore absolutely pummeled them. But we've also seen them take control with the physicality in their game. Jacksonville game this year comes to mind. They were just completely dominant from a physicality standpoint. You're playing another AFC South team. You handle Jacksonville. You handle Tennessee. Houston, you should have won Houston. Should have won that game. I think they're going to win this game on Sunday, but I don't know that it's going to be a blowout. I don't know that it's going to be a game where and I don't even know what the line is at.
Oh, I was just going to bring that up.
Thanks. What is it?
Buffalo by 4.5. Does that feel too low?
I might take the Colts and the points on that one. I could see Buffalo winning again by a field goal. I could see them eking one out. I would love to say that they're going to go in there and absolutely torch Indianapolis, but Buffalo's beat up. And I guess too early to say, but we'll see the injury report through the course of the week, see what the status is of Benford, Coleman, Cooper. I mean, there's some key guys that could miss some time here for the Bills that will make going into Indianapolis a little bit more challenging.
I just find it noteworthy. Granted, they don't play there that often, but you got to go back to 1998, the last time the Bills scored a road win in Indy. Okay, that Peyton Manning hadn't even arrived on the scene yet.
That's
at that point.
Insane to me. That is insane to me. That Rob Johnson started the last game in Indianapolis that the Buffalo Bills won,
and he had nothing to do with it. It was Flutie.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll keep you updated through the course of the week, obviously, here in the Sports Bar. Let you know what's happening at One Bills Drive, injuries and whatnot. Wednesday, we'll hear from the team again as they get back on the practice field.
Tell me I'm crazy for thinking that 9 points tonight.
9 times.
The Chiefs giving up too many.
I like the Buccaneers plus 9.5 if you can find it.
Yeah, we saw the Chiefs, and maybe this is like, we saw them on Monday night blow out New Orleans. Okay, New Orleans fired their head coach today. Okay, it's
a bad team.
Yeah, that's a bad team. Tampa Bay is not. Tampa Bay is certainly banged up, but I think they can make enough plays to at least make this interesting. We were joined by 13 Whams with Mike Catalana, and he's bringing up the point, like, wouldn't it be fun if the Chiefs came into Orchard Park undefeated? And I'll answer what I think about that. No, I would like the Buffalo Bills, for the fan base, to actually be playing for a 1 seed. That is the clearest path. Certainly 1 seeds lose all the time in the postseason, but to get that bye, to have the road go through Buffalo,
McDermott doesn't have that excuse on his resume. I mean, you have every other excuse working against you. Oh, we had the Chiefs on the road. No, now we have them at home. Oh, you lost to them at home. If you have the 1 seed and you go all the way, maybe that's what we needed all along. That's the one scenario that we haven't seen play out yet.
You're the 1 seed, and you're taking whatever's left over. Now, granted, you might be like the top wild card winner. You might get Baltimore. Congratulations. But at least if you had 2 weeks to prepare, I would love to see Buffalo host an AFC Championship game. People think I'm a little crazy for thinking that Buffalo is still in the conversation on this. In order for that to happen, Kansas City has to trip up somewhere else. Ultimately, where we feel really good about the Buffalo Bills, San Francisco, Detroit, Rams even, the Bills are not going 3-0 there.
No, Detroit looks really, really effing good. They look really good. And tonight, Tampa plus 9.5, minus 120 at FanDuel.
9.5. Ooh.
Yeah, I got it at 9.5 on FanDuel. I'm into that. I would take that. I'll watch Kansas City wins in a blowout. But I like their chances against the Chiefs right now. The Niners are going to have McCaffrey back by the time they come to Orchard Park. And I feel like that's going to be a different Niners team than what we've seen so far this year. I don't want to rule them out.
Yeah, you know who's in first place? That's Arizona in that division.
I know.
Sorry, bud.
No, dude. What did I do? What did I do to my family? Why did I introduce my daughters to this lifestyle of being a fan of the Chicago Bears? They really, really deserve better than me. They don't deserve this. I got an angry daughter at home wondering what's wrong with Caleb Williams. Why is he out there in the fourth quarter in a meaningless game that they're not going to win, injuring himself? Why can't they feed Roma Dunze more? Like all of the DJ Moore is invisible. What's going on? I shouldn't have done this to my family.
No. Like, to bring it back to football here, I thought, oh, you Bears fans are being emotional. You're overreacting about the coach. No, he needs to go. He needs to go, yeah.
Can't win a game on the road. Can't win a game on the road. And if you watched that game yesterday, and the Bears are one of those fan bases that travels really well, there were a lot of Arizona fans selling off their tickets. There were a lot of Chicago fans hanging out at State Farm for the Cardinals game. So it could have felt like a road game had they even shown up. Just a terrible, pathetic loss by the Bears. So, speaking of bad teams, yes, you mentioned it. Dennis Allen out in New Orleans. And with the Raiders, Antonio Pierce essentially firing the entire offensive staff. I mean, Luke Getsy getting let go isn't a surprise to me because he's not very good, and I know that firsthand from his time with Chicago. But you're the guy that hired these guys. You brought them in this offseason. This is your first full season as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And midway through the first season, you blow out all the guys that you brought in. When are you going to look in the mirror, Pierce?
Well, this might be the argument against the 18-game season, Danger. I don't recall a time where you have a bunch of teams just kind of punting. And they're not saying they're tanking, but let's be honest. Between the Patriots and the Saints and the Raiders and everybody else, you're going to have some bad football teams. And then you have teams that are saying they're in it, but then good luck to Dallas without their quarterback for the next month here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost like betwing Tennessee and New England. It was like, oh, God, somebody's got to win this game.
No,
we really don't want to.
Tie.
Yeah, let's play
tie.
for the tie. When May threw the touchdown to tie it up, I wonder if can we just bypass overtime? Let's just wave the white flag, throw in the towel. We're happy with this outcome. Nobody should win. Yeah, I like the idea. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to ride this one out. The Saints are going to be bad the rest of this season. Their quarterback is putrid. They're going to be bad next season. They're going to gut everything, bring in a new regime, the whole thing. Not Bill Belichick. Settle down. And in 2026, when they're picking number 1 overall, the NFL circle will be complete. Arch Manning gets selected by the New Orleans Saints, and now Saints fans have hope once again. The grandson of the great Archie Manning could be your franchise quarterback. I'm telling you, man. That's something I would actually love to see happen for fans of the New Orleans Saints. That would be a lot of fun. I mean, it'd be a tough stretch here the rest of this year and next.
The problem with the Saints is their cap is always disastrous. You need to just kind of bite the bullet. That would line up, bud. That would totally line up.
And how do you bite the bullet? You bite the bullet by getting a quarterback on a rookie deal that's cost controlled and you can build around him. You would almost have to be incompetent to not be able to do that if you're the Saints. We'll see. Long way to go between then and there, but not surprising. Dennis Allen loses his job. I mean, you lose to the Panthers, you're going to lose your job. You can't lose to a team that is set up the way the Panthers are set up. They are a bad, bad team. And Derek Carr hospitalized one of his receivers with his errant passes.
Where do you come down to Michael Thomas putting Carr on blast, though, on X?
Guys just might not like each other. I'm just going to put that out there. You know, I get the sense that Michael Thomas really doesn't like Derek Carr. And, you know, to Derek Carr's defense, I mean, whatever he said, like, I don't know what I did. I don't know. I mean, maybe he didn't do anything. Sometimes guys just don't like each other. don't get along, don't see eye to eye. Michael Thomas might just look at the sight of Derek Carr and get sick to his stomach. This is the guy that's going to throw the ball to me? Get out of here. This ain't the guy. This ain't the dude. This ain't it. I know what it looks like. I've played with professionals. Derek Carr's bad news. He has an opportunity to make history later this season, and we root for greatness in the sports bar. He could become the first. He's already become the first quarterback to lose to 31 teams in the NFL.
How did one of the, I guess because they were great, but like you would have figured Brady or Manning or Vinny Testaverde or somebody like that would have gone to 31 by that
They've
point.
won against, I think Brady has won against all,
right, but
hasn't
lose.
lost to all of them.
Yeah.
And so this could be historic. Week 17, circle this one on your NFL schedule. With the Saints and the Raiders playing each other, if Derek Carr starts that game, he has the opportunity to lose through his career, to lose to every NFL franchise. He's already made history. He's lost to 31. Nobody else has done that. He could lose to all of them. We want greatness. We're not satisfied with losing to 31. Lose to all 32, you coward. You coach killer.
Aaron Rodgers. Oh, like he's got to be close. No, he's never lost to Cleveland. He's never lost to Vegas. And, of course, he's never lost to Green Bay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
We want greatness. We want greatness out of our...
Aaron Rodgers, 24-5 against your team.
Against the Bears. Completely owns them. Completely owns them. You were talking earlier about how the Dolphins dominated the Bills through the 70s. The Bills didn't get a win for a decade. And how you thought that there was never going to be a time where we would see the Bills actually even up the history-long series between these two teams. They do it next year. They sweep next year as well.
It's even,
and it's even. And I'm in this spot with the Bears and the Packers where it's like, well, we've just been dominated for too long. They're going to run away with it. There's no way. Both two proud franchises. I don't know if you know, the oldest rivalry in all of football. And it doesn't matter. Not catching up to them anytime soon.
This is a fun fact. Aaron Rodgers has a losing record against 3 teams: Indy, Washington, and the Buffalo Bills.
Look at that.
Yeah.
We'll get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, more great by great, I mean not great, PR for the NBA with Joel Embiid. We'll get the latest on that. College football, Penn State, not so great either, but certainly in the good direction, the Rochester Americans. And a new job perhaps for Mad Dog. Well, he's changes in the air here.
Okay. We'll get to a round of shots. And last call happening before 6 o'clock as well. You can have the final say in the sports bar. The final word at 866-4326. 585-8664-FAN.
update.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott says DeJuan Smoot, the defensive end, has a wrist injury that will require surgery. He's going to be on IR. Keon Coleman needs further testing on his wrist injury. Amari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Reggie Gilliam are all day-to-day. Tyler Bass hitting from 61 to beat the Dolphins. Bass on the fan reaction.
And it feels, again, it's very emotional. To go out there and help my team win, man, it's emotional. And for the fans, too, to give them something to cheer about, man, it means a lot.
Monday Night Football has the Chiefs hosting the Buccaneers. The New Orleans Saints, losers of 7 in a row. They've fired head coach Dennis Allen. Cowboy quarterback Dak Prescott will be out multiple weeks. He's got a severe hamstring injury. Syracuse basketball opening their season tonight. It's the first regular season game. The Orange hosting Lemoyne. Gene Battaglia on the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Got a smart speaker at home? Listen to the sports leader, The Fan Rochester at home by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
Back in the sports bar, it's Danger and Battaglia. Ready for a round of shots as happy hour continues.
At minimum, it wasn't a good look for Philadelphia 76ers center Joel Embiid. Embiid chesting up a reporter on Saturday. Embiid shoving Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes. Upset that Hayes mentioned his son and his late brother, both named Arthur, when questioning Embiid's professionalism and effort to stay in shape. Now, the columnist first apologized, then that shove happened. Embiid later said he doesn't care what the reporter says. Hayes firing back, but you do care.
I just think your manhood is being questioned. Your heart is being questioned. You probably aren't 100%, but name an athlete that is 100% ever, like feeling, oh yeah, I'm 100% optimal, I'm ready to go. There's always going to be, you're always going to be dinged up, banged up, bruised. This is still veiled load management, and these guys are getting defensive because they know we're right. They know we're right to question it. We're questioning it. There's a lot of time and money at stake. The fans, and this is one of those instances, I don't like when people say, fans pay your salary.
Can you say both are wrong here? Because Embiid certainly is wrong, and Embiid can't have rabbit ears like that. You play in Philadelphia, for crying out loud. But to kind of go into the, you lost your brother and everything else, well, it's a bad segue. I think the columnist was wrong in that. One other NBA note, Greg Popovich suffering a health issue before Saturday's game. The Spurs coach out indefinitely, so it'll be Mitch Johnson behind the bench. He's also going to be behind the bench when the Spurs play in Houston coming up on Wednesday. No timetable for Popovich's return here. They're not saying what it is. Popovich is 75.
Yeah, I don't like hearing that news. That makes me worried that something might be serious with Pop there.
Yeah. Not once but twice, Penn State failed to score when they had it first and goal inside the 5 against Ohio State. Nittany Lion head coach James Franklin now 1-12 against AP top 10 teams at Penn State. Overall in Division I, he's 1-15. Buckeyes 10-1 against Franklin. Penn State hasn't defeated Ohio State since 2016.
It blows my mind how you could have a player who's clearly the most talented player you have, who gets you into the position for that goal line opportunity in Tyler Warren, and you have a chance to win the game, and he doesn't get a look. You don't even have the creativity to find a way to get him the ball in the red zone trip, that final red zone trip. He was the reason you got down there, and you're not going to put the ball in his hands? I just think it's coaching malpractice. This guy's a great coach if you want to finish in third constantly. That's what you have.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything out of school. If you're a Penn State fan, there's nobody disagreeing with me on that take. Everybody that follows that team knows this guy is good enough to get you third place. That's what your program is.
Like 1-12, like
embarrassing.
10-1,
embarrassing.
Yeah, like
when is enough? When have you seen enough? Because you could say this was fluky. When have you seen? And then furthermore, and I don't really. This doesn't bother me. There's a couple things that have bad vibes, bad energy around Penn State this weekend. Couple of things that happened, and you probably saw this. The big one, the one that got all the headlines, was Jason Kelsey smashing somebody's phone because somebody was making fun of Travis Kelce used a slur.
Used a slur.
Used
which
a slur.
Not cool, but you can't smash a phone.
Not cool.
Yeah.
Look, I'll listen to Kelce needs to rise above that, but I also love the message that sends to any hero out there who's been living behind a keyboard or on their phone and thinks you can just fire off or say whatever you want anytime you want without any repercussion. The real world, there are repercussions in the real world for saying the things that you think you're getting away with online. And this guy said something in person to a guy that you probably would say it to online and not have any repercussion at all. But because he said it in person, I'm going to take your phone and smash your phone, you punk. I don't like how he acted. I don't like that he did what he did. But I also think that's a wake-up call for any hero, any keyboard warrior out there that's been living in their mom's basement thinking, I can do or say whatever I want on social media to anybody I want to. Oh, no, there's ramifications. Try that in person and see what happens. You get your phone smashed. That's the least of your worries. You probably could have done a lot worse. The other thing that, to bring it back to Franklin, that I saw that made me kind of like, oh boy. And another example of keyboard warriors not knowing what to do when being challenged. Franklin got into it with a couple of fans.
You were telling me about this.
Yeah, and he's basically stopped. He said, "What's your name? I want your name. If you're going to be critical of me and say the things that you're saying of me, have enough courage to give me your name." And they didn't. You're a coward. Absolute coward. So, again, I don't like how either of those played out. I don't like that Kelce smashed his phone. I don't like that Franklin is chesting up fans. There's a lot of frustration, just a lot of bad vibes and bad energy in Happy Valley with that loss to Ohio State. But I do like that there were a couple of instances where the trolls kind of got their lunch served to them.
The Utica Comets, I know this is going to upset no one here in Rochester. They've yet to win a game this season.
Aww.
They played 9 so far.
9 times.
The Amherst completing the weekend sweep, winning Game 1 by an 8-1 score. Game 2 went to the shootout. The Amherst get the extra point there, 3-2. They win.
We had to humor them a little bit. Now it's like the White Sox. You can't be the first team to lose to Utica.
Utica, I guess, is really bad. Rochester has won 4 in a row as goaltender Michael Hauser, playing his best hockey right now, gets his 4th win of the season. Amherst playing Cleveland on Wednesday. We will talk by phone to head coach Mike Leone tomorrow here in the Sports Bar.
Because they're traveling to Cleveland tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. All right, we'll have Coach on with us, and the Amherst are hot right now. 4 straight wins. I love it.
Where things are going really well for the Amherst, the parent team is struggling.
What? You mean Lindy Ruff hasn't been able to figure out why he's got a locker room full of underachievers and how to get them to actually play winning hockey consistently? What?
At 4-7-1, which, let's be honest, it's really 4-8. Okay, this is the worst start. Boy, when I read this, I'm like, oh, this is not put into perspective. It's the worst start for the Sabres since 2017-2018. That was the first year of Jason Botterill, general manager. This is now season 5 of Kevin Adams at the helm.
Yikes.
Following loss to Detroit on Saturday, the Sabres are tied with Montreal for the worst record in the Atlantic Division. In fact, there's only one team with a worse winning percentage in the NHL right now. That's lousy San Jose.
Yikes.
Ottawa coming to town tomorrow night.
All right, so look, all that we needed to see happen was just call the season early. I mean, like if you would have had this conversation with us a couple of weeks ago, just call the season. They were in a playoff position. We didn't have to go through the trouble of playing a full schedule. We could have ended the drought that way. Now, instead, we've got to suffer. The thing about this stat, though, Gene, that is interesting to me is what's been frustrating about the Sabres in some of these years during the drought is they will get off to a hot start. And you can't even get excited now if they get off to a hot start because we see them fold down the stretch, even if they get a 10-game winning streak or whatever the hot start is there early in the season. They fall apart eventually. So the hope here is that, okay, you got off to a slow start, a really slow start, and maybe there's magic down the stretch a la St. Louis the year that they went on their cup run. But I'm not holding my breath for any of that.
No, and this is you're only going to hear the noise surrounding Kevin Adams. It's year 5. Your plan, tear it down, get the young talent, sign young talent before they hit the market. Oh, that's smart. Well, it's smart if
you're not getting a return on that investment. I mean, Tage is off to a nice start this season, but what's up with Cousins? I mean, he got his power play goal the other night. I guess that's something.
Dahlin, he is not worthy of that C. Power has got growing pains here. One night he does one good thing. Next night, what are you doing?
Yeah, a lot of frustration. That's why we limit our Sabres talk here in the sports bar. We want to keep things up and positive and moving forward.
We move on.
Yes.
One longtime sports TV show came to an abrupt end. Chris Mad Dog Russo had been hosting a daily show on the MLB network called High Heat. The show had been on since 2014. Russo, out of nowhere, telling viewers on Friday that was the last show. Over 2,200 shows, in fact, they taped and aired. Andrew Marchand reporting that while Russo will still be involved somehow with MLB Network, this opens the door for him to do more on ESPN.
Really? Yeah, I think Mad Dog can pretty much do whatever he wants. Like anywhere he goes, whatever he does, it's pretty much a success, right? He just adds, he's the perfect yin to Stephen A's yang on First Take, and they've kind of been testing that out. Like if they made that permanent, I'd love that so much.
They made it a weekly thing?
It's like once a week.
Yeah, make it more. Yeah,
I would love that. And if they do that, that's probably a smart strategic move by ESPN if that's what this frees him up to do. I also know he's signed on long-term now with SiriusXM as well. He's not going anywhere from there, and he has that opportunity. And at this stage of his life, at this stage of his career, he has nothing to prove, man. Follow the money. Go where the money takes you.
Well, the High Heat show, like you mentioned the network he's on, they actually built that studio right inside that radio network for him. So he just walks down the hall and did it and looked in front of the camera. Like,
what a life.
Yeah, what a life.
What a life.
Look, he earned it.
Absolutely.
Like, he's the guy. Like,
one of the godfathers of what we do, this profession of sports talk radio. And we're not here without the work of Mad Dog and Mike Francesa, for that matter. Those guys were fantastic, and they've both gone on to do great things.
Oh, who cares?
Obviously, through the course of their careers and beyond. So that'll do it for us this afternoon, man. What a fun show. It's always fun on a Victory Monday. Thanks to Mike Catalana, 13-Map Sports and Buffalo Plus, for stopping by and sharing his thoughts on the Bills' 30-27 win over Miami yesterday. And also Ryan Hickey, Hot Take Hickey. You'll hear him here in a few minutes with JR Sport Brief from Infinity Sports Network, letting us know a little bit more about his Indianapolis Colts in advance of Sunday's game in Indy for the Buffalo Bills. If you missed either of those conversations, find them wherever you get your podcasts. That includes the free-to-download Odyssey app, AUDACY. Search out the Sports Bar, and you'll find all of our guest appearances and shows listed for you there. Tomorrow, Matt Perino, the Syracuse Post-Standard, Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, and Coach Mike Leone of the Rochester Americans.
You're listening to the Sports Bar.